after 3 hours, right?
It was good stuff. Good, dense information.
It was. But there's probably not time to look at this, but seriously, you have to watch this. This Falk's stream last night was solid gold. Like, it was just, I could not look away. Oh my god. And I'll just set this up, but seriously, you have to watch it. Somebody raised a kind of a tongue-in-cheek comment about El and Yahweh. On the basis of the stupid response string that IP and Rob wrote into our stream yesterday. And Falk says at one point there, he's like, he says at one point, yeah, speaking of like me, you, I think probably Josh too, because he's responding, I can't hear what his wife is saying in the background. So he's talking to her, and he just says, yeah, he says, the problem is they don't read.
Okay.
And then, Fish, he says, if they had read Mark Smith in chapter 2, he says that Yahweh is El.
So you found the skeleton. How would you tell it's a dinosaur? You personally, how would you tell?
Well, interesting question. I don't know. I'd have to do some research on that.
Hey everybody, welcome to Dapper Reacts 105, Bodie Babel bashing. We're starting off with Ashanti checking her camera.
Hot mic.
So, and a hot mic, yeah. So we'll take
and Kip ranting in the background.
Yeah, we'll take
this is all Dapper's fault.
A couple of Dapper's professional drinks.
Oh.
So there's one. And two. And I'm drinking Modelo Negra. Because I didn't finish all of it last time. So now I have a few more. And who knows, maybe if you guys can get me through 3 beers in the next 2 hours, I'll have to open up one of my shock tops. So, good luck with that, though. It's going to be tough for you. Because, hey, why are we at 3 drinks? We should be at 2, but now that's the Dapper's a professional again, so here's another one. There we go.
While Dapper's drinking, I have replenished my whiskey wares.
Ooh.
From after draining the bottle of Nika on your stream last month.
All right, well,
I did. I don't know if you can see it. I did get my my annual Christmas bottle. Oh, how do I? There it. No, now I'm moving my. I don't know how to move. There we go. There it is.
Well,
for my son.
Nice.
And then I bought myself a special treat.
So wait, are you gonna be drinking during the stream?
No.
Oh, okay.
I can't afford to drink these. So
Okay.
I bought I bought myself a bottle of 9-year special edition cask strength bourbon barrel aged Ladag. It's very, very nice. But I sadly can't afford to drink it. So,
well, we just had 5 Dapper Dinosaur memberships gifted by why is it not showing up here? I'll just scroll up. By Ben Thick Tunicate. Thank you very much. For some reason, my viewer activity tab over on the YouTube studio is acting up, which is not Dapper's professional because that's YouTube's fault. But I do want to say thank you. I did take the 5 drinks while Kip was going on about his replenished drinks, and the drink counter has been updated to display the proper number. So last time we were here, we left off on chapter 13, and I looked ahead, and chapter 13 and 14 seemed extremely boring. Chapter 14, which you haven't seen at all, was just, did Nimrod, or was Nimrod the king who ordered the building of the Tower of Babel? And I could not possibly care less about the answer to that question, whether in terms of like the actual text of the Bible, or what Bodie thinks, or any kind of historical core that might be part of this narrative. Like, I just don't care. I can't imagine why it would be important to me.
Fun fact, can I summarize this in like 20 or 30 seconds?
Sure.
there was no Nimrod. 2, we don't know what the Bible means or who they're referring to when they talk about Nimrod. Number 3, the Tower of Babel, as we established in the first episode, was a project of Nebuchadnezzar II, a renovation project of Nebuchadnezzar II. That was completed in 590 BCE. All done.
Nice. Roshan Lipstick Equus Keller for 199 says Kip's hair is on point today, which is true. Did you do something special with your hair to get that, like, the majestic mane?
Like a Pantene commercial.
You washed it. All right. Well, there you go.
Washed it.
Heard it here first, everybody. I have noticed the trend where, like, you'll get guys who have, like, great hair, and it's like, what do you do to keep your hair that way? It's like shampoo. And then you get, like, women who have great hair, and it's like, what do you do? It's like, well, here's my 20-step hair care routine that starts with 18 different products. I'm like, oh,
I actually don't.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm thankful that I don't suffer from. Well, I guess at this point it's not premature balding, is it?
No,
but I'm
not.
thankful I don't suffer from any form of balding. But I gotta say, like, it's not. My hair does tend to get pretty strawy. Like those ends
You
are.
need a trim.
Yeah, I definitely need a trim.
So do I.
Yeah.
So do I. Okay.
So
Also, Benthic Tunicate's hallucinating today. I am quite clearly wearing feeders.
Yeah.
So I don't know what alternate reality you're watching from, but
I mean, I see the beaters. They're on
look at your
screen.
screen.
Yeah. They're on screen along with your blurry background. Your background is like Bigfoot. It's just constantly blurry.
Yeah, it's because I'm a cryptid, so.
Yes. Or at least your bedroom is a cryptid.
Yeah.
Mr. Cliff for £2 says, if you give me a moo, I'll send another £2. Well, there we go. I hope that's worth £2 worth of Mr. Cliff's money. All right, so we're going to go on to chapter 15. Did the continent split in the days of Peleg? Because in addition to having actual, like, biblical stuff, this is going to get into some geology stuff, which I know a little bit about. Although almost all of the geology I know, I've learned since starting this channel with the help of several geologists who are not, like, public figures, so I'm not going to name names, but the help of several geologists who are part of the Science Friends group has been instrumental in getting me to be less rock dumb. Because when I started this, I was like, I know that there's igneous, metamorphic, and sedimentary rocks. And like that was the extent. It was like what I vaguely remembered from like 8th grade earth science. So yeah. You guys learn stuff from me. I learned stuff doing this channel. A lot of stuff. Mr. Cliff for £2 says, thank you very much.
You know, I missed this one account that used to be active on Twitter. It was Anti-Semitism Cow, and it would quote anti-Semitic posts with a big moo so that people's attention would be drawn to it and they could report it. And obviously the toll that takes on whoever was running the cow account is astronomical, so they eventually stopped. But yeah, I missed that account because some of the things it would find.
Yeah.
And to this day, some of us will still, on the Jewish side of social media, will still quote stuff with a big cow or mooing at it.
Actually,
whenever we see anti-Semitism.
What used to be the Science Friends group chat on Twitter, one of our hobbies used to be just whenever any of us would find an anti-Semitic tweet, we would put it in the group so that the whole group could both report it as well as send it to other people who we each knew individually who could report it. But then we noticed that not too long after the Musk takeover, they just stopped getting deleted, so we kind of just gave up.
Yep.
So
yeah, and I would report stuff that was just blatant, not like a dog whistle, just actual like anti-Semitism.
Right.
And I would report it and get an email like 2 days later that's like, we didn't find any violations, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. All right.
Thanks, YouTube bot.
Well, in this case, Twitter, but
Twitter bot, yeah.
YouTube is not as bad, I think, in terms of like the report system as Twitter became after the Musk takeover. Obviously, before the Musk takeover, YouTube was much worse than Twitter. Twitter actually had pretty decent moderation. But all right, who wants to start us off with the introduction?
Yeah, I can.
All right.
I don't know if you guys noticed, but I quite like to read out loud.
I noticed.
That must be really handy when you had small
So-
kids, right?
Yeah, that is really handy when you have small kids. I no longer have small kids,
I have
but
big kids.
They are actually
Um,
quite large.
they're quite large. But listen, and I don't
They're
know.
full adult sized. at
Yes,
least
they
one.
are. I don't know how public I've been about this yet, but my youngest son has a girlfriend, and
Aw.
she is expecting in, I guess that's
Oh.
that's like 6 months.
Still tough.
So there will be another one running around
You'll be able to read to
soon
that
enough.
one.
I'll be able to read to that one. That'll be
Yeah.
But we do have an
That'll
extra
be
drink because Mothra stopped by real
awesome.
quick.
So. All right,
Look at you,
shall
Grandpa Kip.
shall I start? I know.
Yes, we shall.
Shall I start?
If you don't
Okay.
start, I'll have to.
Okay. In Genesis 10, 2/3 of the way through the genealogies of the post-flood patriarchs, we read in verse 25, to Ever were born 2 sons. The name of one was Peleg, for in his days the earth was divided, and his brother's name was Yoktan. The same parenthetical phrase for in his days the earth was divided also appears in the repetition of this genealogical entry in 1 Chronicles 1:19. Many find these genealogical lists very boring to read, so they
But
skip
I
over
don't.
the details. No, I mean, but let's be honest.
Oh no.
Right. You're a bit of a biblical enthusiast, and any biblical enthusiast is just like genealogy. Sign me up. So yes, I am special thanks for his contribution.
Yeah, but do you know
Where
who that
is
is?
I do know who that is. So where
Okay.
is that? What is that?
This is gonna be full of it.
What
No.
is that footnote linked to?
The footnote, nothing apparently.
What are we
didn't-
for real? No, seriously, we need to.
There is no one.
Where
it's not. It should probably be right
So-
here after the question mark. But it's not. It's
Okay,
just nowhere.
so since I am a biblical enthusiast, I want people to know that if you cannot read Hebrew, you're missing some wordplay here. In verse 25, 2 sons were born to Eber. Name of the one, Peleg, for in his days, ki bayamim, yamav, sorry. Niflaga, those are the same root. Peleg and plig, those are from the same root. So it's saying his name is Peleg because in his days, Niflaga was the earth divided.
Right.
So this is one of those things where I really highly recommend at least listening to recordings of people reading the text, because there's a lot of wordplay that you miss if you just
Oh my
never
goodness,
read it
yes.
except in translation.
so much?
And some of the puns are really entertaining. So
Yes.
So
and can I? So I'm sorry. I was just. It's so.
yeah, there's a delay.
It's so fucking hilarious that
There's the
that
first one.
doesn't connect to anything.
Kip's F-bomb fund, I think, is starting to run dry. Ben Thick Tunicate, by the way, who's been a member for
True.
21 months, says Kip has small children the size of large children. Oh, there's Mothra again.
that will never stop being funny. A small boulder the size of a large boulder.
Yeah, it was.
So good.
It's right up there with an asteroid the size of half a giraffe, which is just like, what? How do you what? What is that?
Americans will do anything to not use the metric system.
Hey, I think the giraffe thing was actually from like Australia or something, so it's not just Americans.
That's even funnier because giraffes aren't native to Australia. Like, how would they know what's going on?
Well, I mean, they're not native to America either. Although, also apparently, according to one of the guys I've covered before, giraffes are actually being hidden from you by Satan so that you don't know about giraffes. I feel like Satan's doing a real shit job at that, because I feel like most people know about giraffes, but what do I know? Yeah.
Okay.
Roachino Lipstick Equus Keller for $4.99 says, "You mean Bible otaku, not Bible enthusiast? I think."
Bible otaku.
I don't know what that means.
That's okay, Kip. We'll tell you later.
That's okay.
All right. I am 51 years old. You guys are aware, right?
Yes.
So,
Oh,
yes.
Vadim Richenko
Thanks.
sends a €2 super chat for Kip. So Kip, you'll have to read this one for us.
Like, Vadim has been
Do
around.
you read Cyrillic?
He's
I don't know.
listen. So he's on my streams all the time. He's on Apologia streams. He's on your streams. I can't help but notice that this is his first super chat
On this channel.
So
at
he
least.
spent on this channel. Okay, he has spent money to send this super chat
Mhm.
specifically to me, and I have no fucking idea what this says.
Okay.
None. I
Most-
don't know.
Most of the letters
I-
match up really well with Greek. Does that help?
Well, most.
It's true.
Most of
That
them.
we're stretching things here a little bit, right? Because there's a whole hell of a lot of letters in there that look nothing like they do in Greek. So Vadim, I have no idea what you expect me to do with this. I can't read it. What should I do with it?
See, what do you think it sounds like? What's your guess?
Well, my guess.
Yeah.
Poedrav. Something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, you're
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
Is that just a s?
You're close.
Mhm.
What is it?
Drav. Liao. Yayu.
Pozdrav
the last
Liao.
vowel.
What? Okay.
Liayu.
What is the sigma there? Is that
And
just
then it's just the s.
It really is.
Mhm.
What's
yeah,
the deal
it's
with
just a-
that? Okay. So pre.
If it's identical to a Greek letter, it just is the same Greek
Pre-
letter.
Predav. Am I Predav Lane?
Pribav. Lenium.
Prebav Lenium. Some Predav Lenium. Okay, so same. Would that be semens?
Semeistva.
Semestava.
Semeistva.
Thank you for your help, Fish.
Welcome. And see, like once we told you it's close to Greek, you're like, you're 90% of the way there.
Just remember,
Yeah.
the people who invented the Cyrillic alphabet were coming from Constantinople, and they were just bringing Greek with them.
Vagry's like, what's the deal with Russian?
Cyrillic, how does that work?
Yeah.
All right.
There's a lot of people in the chat who are
I'll
congratulating
thank
me.
Vadim. I'll thank him on your behalf in Russian.
Thank you.
Swastika.
Thank you.
All right. Well,
I just wanted to say there are a lot of people in the chat who are congratulating me
Mhm.
on the addition of my language family.
oh, thanks,
That's
Falk.
a joke they're not gonna get.
No, that's a Falk joke.
I mean, they watched. One would think they've seen me on this show before, though.
Probably.
No.
Well, would you like to continue with our text?
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Where was I? Yes, they skip over the details. Okay. Yeah, genealogical lists are very boring to read. So they skip over the details and often miss this parenthetical phrase. However, there are some Christians who get excited about this phrase and suggest that maybe this is where the continental drift, which secular scientists have proposed, fits into the Bible.
You know what?
Yeah.
I mean,
Hmm.
okay, the much more likely thing is because it's coming in the same, like, general part of Genesis as Table of Nations and the division of the nations among the gods
Right.
of the sons of God. It's probably that.
Should we talk a little bit, or maybe even just say something about what the verb peleg
Yeah,
or pelag means?
We should,
Sorry.
right after I read this membership chat, which is from,
Yeah,
if you
okay.
think you saw a giraffe, no you didn't,
No, you
who's
didn't.
been a member for 32 months, says, not only giraffes, We also hit Sanskrit, Viking swords, samurai armor, and other things you never heard about. Yeah, so that guy's basic idea was like all the things he was telling you about included like obscure animals. And he's like, the reason you haven't heard about all these animals I'm talking about is because Satan's trying to hide them from you. Which is already stupid because many of them are just in zoos, they're just not famous. But it also included things like the giraffe. And it's like, I think you might need a better reason for why no one's heard of the binturong, buddy, than Satan is hiding all the animals you're talking about.
It's so dumb.
Also, the anal
So
secretions
dumb.
of a binturong smell like buttered toast. Or popcorn, sorry, buttered popcorn. Now you know.
Ew.
Hey, the anal gland secretions of a beaver taste just like vanilla. And that's one of the reasons beaver anal glands have been harvested historically. To make artificial vanilla.
For real.
I'm not kidding.
Oh my, that's for real.
That's a real thing.
Oh.
Yep. It turns out
yikes.
beavers are way easier to harvest than real vanilla.
My favorite flavor doesn't come from the asshole of a beaver.
Hey, technically,
chocolate.
Technically, beavers don't have assholes. They have cloacas. So nothing comes from the asshole of a beaver.
I think some things come from the asshole of a beaver, don't they?
No, because there's no such thing as the asshole
correct.
of a beaver.
Yes, fair. Yes, okay.
Anal glands equals butthole. No, do not argue with me.
No,
I have spoken.
So.
Well, Kip, now that you've learned the disturbing history of artificial vanilla, what would you have to say about the
about Palag?
Yes.
So it's there's not a lot to say about it because it's not a frequently occurring verb in Hebrew, and it doesn't have a lot of cognitive overlap with other Semitic languages, but generally it does appear to mean to be separated. That's it, right?
Yeah.
Like that's all.
It doesn't mean cleaved in twain necessarily.
No,
it just means
there's
a division here.
It doesn't mean the cataclysmic division of land masses and continents. It's like seriously, on its own, as with any verb on its own, you have to supply some context in order to understand what it means. And guys, the simple way to do this is just read the text. Look, I even saved myself from saying read the fucking... Oh, sorry, I did it.
Whoops.
Read the text. It'll tell you what this word means, right?
Context clues, kids.
We got a couple things. Mr. Scientific Method Using Scientist, who's been a member for 6 months, says, you guys don't get it. God-fearing Americans make sure you heard of the giraffe for the Lord. Oh, okay. The God-fearing Americans are spreading the good word of the giraffe. Got it. Foiling Satan's evil plan. Why aren't they doing that for the binturong then? Or the kinkajou? You guys heard about kinkajous?
Yes.
All right.
I have not.
I pulled out the hollout for this one. The root pei lamed gimel. I guess hifil form is to distance oneself. In Aramaic, you get the usage of to divide. Arabic falaja. So that's probably a familiar word to some people. Nifil form to be separated, the PL form to split or to make a furrow. So, yeah, this is a pretty good folk etymology, I'd say.
All right. Roshan Lipstick Equiskeller for $1.99 says beaver anus glands for raspberry flavor too. You get all sorts of cool flavors out of beaver glands here. And then Cognitive Trifurcation with their third super chat on the channel for $2 says, is Kip my AC because he needs a new filter?
Nah.
Also, there have been a number of comments about beavers having cloacas. Other than to say, yes, it's true, I don't know how to answer any of these questions, like how do beavers have cloacas? And the answer is by combining all their back-end openings into one. I don't know how else to say it. That's how, I guess?
And their back-end openings are what we call a butthole. Thank you.
No.
I rest my case, Your Honor.
I am with Vish on this one.
It's a cloaca. That's the proper way. If you think you saw a giraffe, no you didn't. For 200 Argentinian pesos, says Dapper, of course I heard of... Wait. Of course, I heard of kinky Jews. Kinky Jews. Got it. You have one in the stream. I apologize. I'll see myself out. I don't think the kink level of Ashanti has actually been established on air. So
It has not. It
Yeah.
has
Oh,
not.
although I do
And
think
it
a certain
shan't.
Does
I do think a
does
certain
if
level of
you
shan't.
saw a giraffe, no, you didn't know things that we don't know.
maybe I don't know what
I don't
private
know.
chats
I don't know.
they may or may not be
I-
having. Although I will say I do think a certain level of kink awareness has been established, but that's not the same thing.
Yeah, awareness, positivity.
Yeah.
But my own has not been established, and it shan't.
Nathaniel's Scientific Journey Nat Geo Gray, who's been a member for 32 months, says, so beavers re-evolved the cloaca? Yes, they did. And most rodents do not have a cloaca. My Unfinished Journey, member for 22 months, says, the Christians have tricked Dapper into advocating for, I think you mean kinkajou. Maybe. I mean, look, they're adorable, and Kip, your homework
They are
after
cute.
this is to look up the kinkajou, which is Kinkaju, and they're
So
like,
yeah, they spelled it right there. Yeah.
yeah, they're
That's
like
good.
South
Dapper
American
advocating
raccoons.
for soft G.
Eh. They're like they're like South American raccoons with prehensile tails who eat fruit.
Oh, nice.
They're adorable.
Alex Markel saying we would subscribe to your OnlyFans if you had one. I'm uncomfortable, but it would be very boring.
You know,
'cause
OnlyFans
I-
doesn't mandate adult
Yeah.
content. You could just do very safe for
I
work
know.
content.
I know it would probably just be like, want to watch me clean my room?
It could be
Okay.
costuming stuff. You could give people cosplay
you
advice.
could just you could just
Well,
dress.
there is a kink community for that actually.
Wait,
People
for
doing,
cosplay?
like spicy cosplay and stuff.
there
Oh
you-
yeah, oh yeah.
Well, there you go. There
Yeah.
you go. There's your OF niche right there. Safe for work
Mm-mm.
cosplay advice for the cosplay kink community.
I will say something. This is not just for like people who want to do spicy stuff, but people with penises, please, I beg you, if you're gonna wear bodysuits, wear a dance belt. Please. It's not okay to just have it prominently displayed like that. Please just wear the dance belt. Please, thanks.
Well, there we go.
Yeah.
Kip, would you like to continue, or
No,
should we
if I
pass
would
it off?
set up an OnlyFans to give
Listen,
Hebrew lessons, Mark Smith.
This stream has taken a turn I
it's
did
getting
not
It's taken
expect.
several turns, honestly.
It's taken several turns.
You never know what you're going to get here, except that there's going to be stupid involved. There's always
yeah.
stupid, but what other stuff accretes to that, you never
Alright.
know.
Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna continue reading.
Yeah,
just
cognitive
because I'm
bifurcation,
excited
this PSA brought
to
to you
see
by
where this-
trauma.
where this goes. It seems odd that this little nugget, not
I
sure
hate
why
that.
that's in quotes there,
Oh,
should appear in this genealogy of Noah's 3 sons and their descendants after the flood. But does this phrase, for in his days the earth was divided, suggest that continents drifted apart in the days of Peleg as a result of God dividing or separating the continents? So before
No.
we continue, I have a question.
Mhm.
Because now I'm starting to wonder about what Bodie's doing here. So does AIG just outright reject continental drift, or are they on the they on this? So they're on like the super.
They actually
the
accept
super fast.
They do super fast. So they think that the pre-flood world was basically Rodinia, which is the supercontinent before Pangaea. And then during the flood, Rodinia broke up, formed back together into Pangaea, then broke up again by the time the flood was ending. Now, exactly, like, was the Earth as it is exactly now in terms of, like, continental placement right after the flood? Or was there still a little bit of, like, fast but not, like, race car speed continental drift going on that slowed down slowly over the next couple, 100 years? That's less clear. But the post-flood world would have been, in terms of the placement of the continental plates, very recognizable as a modern arrangement, more or less, according to AIG. But they still think there was all that movement under the flood. So I would say that if Bodie is towing what I understand to be the standard line for AIG, he would say that most of the continental shifting and plate tectonics movement that we know of from geology happened during the flood, not after it. So I think he's going to reject the idea that that's what that means in Genesis 10.
So I feel like he's...
To quote Erica and all the other science friends, how did you solve the heat problem?
Oh, he didn't even try.
No.
Yeah. It's like that scene in Iron Man, the first one, where Tony's trying to get away from Ironmonger by like flying super high in the atmosphere because he knows about like the icing. And he's like, "Hey, how'd you solve the icing problem?" And Obadiah Stane like, "What icing problem?" And he just dunk and sends him down in an ice cube.
It's a good scene.
That's a phenomenal
So
movie.
good.
I mean, just straight up, right?
I mean, it's the one that created the MCU as a thing.
The MCU.
I mean, technically, the earlier Hulk movie is in the same continuity, but it didn't do well. It was just kind of a nothing movie.
Yeah.
And then it was the first Iron Man that really kicked it off.
Yeah.
I still love Ed Norton Hulk.
It's great. But I think like some of this, like my first impression was that he's setting this up to reject the idea that Peleg was named after the continents splitting apart. But it kind of feels like, and my guess here is that his instinct is that somehow advocating for this in relation to continental drift is damaging.
So yeah, I think
to the Bible, right?
I think that's going to be his position, is that it is a bad idea to associate this with continental drift, or plate tectonics, and he would prefer that it be the political division or the territorial division, which I think he's right about. That's what the phrase is actually about. It's about like dividing the land according to the nations, so that the sons of God can rule over it, or rule over the individual nations. Although he's going to go with the monotheist like reinterpretation of that, I believe, but still, I think he's going to say that this is about the dividing the land according to the territories of the nations listed in the Table of Nations. But we have a super chat from Rochino Lipstick Equus Keller for $4.99, who says, "If I recall correctly, AIG is a sack of scrotes and subscribers to catastrophic plate tectonics." Absolutely true. Conversely, Kent is hydroplate quote theory, while denying Pangea. Yeah, Kent's like modified hydroplate. We'll take a drink for the sack of scrotes. Yeah,
Hashtag modified hydroplate.
Yeah, it's like the modified sniper school, right?
Yeah.
JM Truth. I kind of wish he hadn't disappeared. He was always good for a laugh.
Before we continue, though, I do want to shout out Vish for invoking a Wayne Gretzky quote in the chat. Nicely done.
Nice.
I did that?
You did.
Which one?
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Yeah, that's a Wayne Gretzky. Oh. Well, I mean, really, when I say it, I'm quoting Michael Scott, who was quoting Wayne Gretzky.
The only reason anyone in your goddamn country knows that quote is because Michael Scott is quoting Wayne Gretzky.
I disagree, because when I first heard Michael Scott say that, I already knew the quote. Because Wayne Gretzky was pretty famous in America. I don't know if you know this.
Dapper, Fade to Gray says, "I'm surprised Dapper hasn't set up a ties off OnlyFans."
Oh, yeah, take that tie off. Leave the top hat on, maybe? What about the monocle, though? Does the monocle stay or go? What do you think?
The monocle stays on.
The monocle stays on? Okay. Jeez. Okay.
Dapper's ties off OnlyFans explains cloacas.
In great anatomical detail, with clinical detachment.
Anatomical detail.
Yeah. Huge amounts of clinical detachment, great detail. Lots of diagrams and
All
charts.
the monster fuckers will show up and be like, "Oh, I actually learned something too. That's great."
Yay! All right. How about we just trade off when there's bold text? How about that? Okay. I'll start with this one.
Oh, good.
Okay.
In today's secular society, which is a phrase I hate, people have been taught as fact that the continents were once joined together in a supercontinent that split apart, and then the resultant continents drifted over millions of years into their present positions. One primary piece of conclusive evidence usually presented to support this idea is the jigsaw puzzle fit of Europe and Africa matching closely with North and South America, respectively. If the North and South Atlantic Ocean basins are closed, these continents fit together at approximately the mid-Atlantic ridge, a range of mountains on the ocean floor centrally located in the Atlantic Ocean basins. Which, other than phrasing it weirdly, he's right. He's right. We'll take a drink. Vladimir-Chenko, who's been a member for 1 month, says, was that Fish's first ever F-bomb? Yeah, but now Fish owes me a $10 super chat. Is there? So.
No, because I've said it before on stream. I just tend to be a lot more well moderated, and it tends to happen towards like.
It doesn't change the $10 super chat part.
But she can.
I'm already paying you on Patreon or whatever channel membership.
Probably true.
She can take that out of my fund.
Okay. Well, I think your fund is about to run dry.
Put it on my tab.
No, seriously?
Yeah, you only had 10 paid for. I haven't said it that many times. Between the rest of that stream and this one? Yeah.
Damn it.
Deplorable Elk Nanovirus for 15 shekels says, the name of the one was Peleg, for in his days the seas were divided between the Yucatanic and the Pelagic tunic. Wow.
That's the root word for pelagic. That's it. I'm calling it.
I've actually heard someone try to argue that Peleg is actually connected to the Greek word for sea. Yeah, and it's.
I mean, I'm just gonna say that etymologically, Peleg is the root of pelagic because pelagic tunicates are separated from the seafloor or any other hard surfaces because they're mobile.
Hate them so much.
Nailed it. Nailed it.
More reasons to hate pelagic tunicates. Confusing etymology.
Pelagic tunicates go back to the Bible.
No good God would create pelagic tunicates. Pelagic tunicates are, in and of themselves, a conclusive proof of the atheism. That's just what it is. Yeah. If you think God,
therefore no God.
Yeah. If God existed, he would not allow the continued existence of pelagic tunicates. Therefore, there can be no God. By the way, I am seeing that we have 95 people watching, but only 36 of you have hit the like button. So, unfortunately, that means that I like less than half of you, half as well as you deserve, and y'all should hit that like button so you don't keep getting Bilbo'd.
That Kent thought that like 30 was half of 90.
I do remember that. I do. The guy who taught high school math and science for 15 years and couldn't divide 90 by 2. Yep. All right. It was
accurate tunicates. Yes. Yes. Yes.
The biblically accurate tunicate has one eye as opposed to the no eyes that normally they have. Because for a tunicate, that's a lot of eyes. It was this reconstruction that led to the idea of earlier supercontinent called earlier supercontinent called Pangaea. The secular concept. Damn it.
The secular concept.
Y'all all right?
No.
Otherwise known as the concept.
Stop just calling anything you disagree with secular, Bodie. It doesn't make any sense. Jeez. The secular concept for this continental drift, now known as plate tectonics, which those two things are not synonymous, goes further and suggests that there were earlier supercontinents, such as Pangaea, which, no, that's not earlier than... Okay, Bodie, this is simple, like, English. Not even English. This is just simple logic. If you want to list earlier supercontinents than Pangaea, don't put Pangaea on the list. It's like if I wanted to talk about, like, hey, which YouTube celebrities are older than me? First, me. No, that doesn't work. Jeez. Okay, we got a few super chats here. Roshino Lipstick Equus Keller for $4.99 says, not just the puzzle piece shapes of the continents, but the Appalachian Mountains extend into Scotland. Yes, they do. They extend and North
Mauritania
Africa.
And Morocco.
Yep. The Atlas Mountains, the Scottish Highlands, and the Appalachians are all part of the was it Mid-Pangaea Mountains or something like that? I don't remember the exact name of what the mountain chain is supposed to be called. Metageeky Platypus Warlock for $5 says, Vishanti Frick Fund Peleg and Pelagic Tunicates for the win. Even Godzilla likes them with a Godzilla.
And how can Godzilla be wrong?
Look,
So let it be written, so let it be done.
I hate this. I'm fed up with this world. Everybody betray me. Jasper peg-legged tunic. Jasper peg-legged tunicates the mighty for €6 says Tunicate only has one eye. How many did I
Correct.
put in there? Oh, right.
It does.
There's like a
It's
joke
good.
in there.
The biblically accurate version has one eye because
Yes.
Tunicate only has
Mhm.
one eye.
True. All right. So
Sorry, guys. I can't help but going back to this rambling couple of sentences here and reflecting on how much this reminds me that Yahweh can't give an inheritance to himself. Yeah.
I mean, I
This
suppose
again.
at most you could say, "Hey, I'm giving out the inheritance, everybody, but I'm not giving away everything. I'm going to keep some stuff
That's
for
not
me."
what it.
That's not what it
not
says.
the same thing, though.
No, it's not.
not the same thing,
It's
though.
not. It's not. You're
It's
right.
not. Anyways,
All right, such as Pangea, which again, Penotia and
Yeah.
Rodinia, encompassing the Earth's proposed multi-billion-year geologic history. Creation scientists and flood Okay, two oxymoronic terms, got it. Creation scientists and flood geologists do not deny that these continents may have been connected to one another in the past as a single supercontinent in light of Genesis 1:9. Oh, because he gathered the land together in one
all
place.
the land is in one place.
Right, okay.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
I get. Look, I get how he's getting there. Okay. Actually, it was a Christian geologist named Antonio Snyder in 1859 who was the first person to publicly comment on this jigsaw puzzle fit of all the continents, except that he believed the spreading apart and separation of the continents occurred catastrophically during the Genesis flood.
Well, if
okay.
that one guy believed it,
I honestly have no idea what I'm supposed to do with this. Like, some guy said this one thing, and he was kind of half right. Like, oh, okay, cool.
I mean, Antonio Snyder said it, so by
Yeah,
gum,
I
I believe it.
Jeez.
Listen, my grandfather, when I was a kid, I just have to share this. He had a like an old Mercator. I think it was the Mercator projection map in his study downstairs, and somebody pointed out to me, I think when I was 9 or 10 years old, there the fit of the continents, right, between North and South America, and suggested to me that once upon a time they were together, and I could not stop staring at that map the rest of the night.
Nice.
It blew my mind. It was so great.
Mark right-handed Sith Smith for $2 says, at Vishanti, so mote it be.
So mote it be.
And Dutch Tunicate Demonic Selection for $5 says, have you considered pelagic tunicates are God's favored children? With a Godzilla, which we will take a drink for, and then I will say, keep your stupid comments in your pocket, because apparently today I'm quoting The Room. Hey, you know what? I like The Room. It's a fun movie to watch, as long as you're in the right mood.
No,
You're tearing me apart, Mark.
no, Vadim, you are not older than me. I was born in 1973.
Ooh, get
He's
wrecked.
solidly Gen X.
It's true. All right. Creation scientists believe, along with their secular colleagues, that there is good observational evidence. Oh, really? You didn't say that there are good observational evidences? Good job, Bodie.
Wow, nice.
There is good observational evidence that is consistent with an original supercontinent in the past that was split apart, and that today's continents moved to their present locations or positions on our surface. However, the main difference is the timing.
Oh, is that the main difference?
I would say that the main difference is that, the quote-unquote flood geologists have a physically impossible model, whereas the so-called secular geologists have a physically possible model, and therefore one is very obviously to be preferred. Whereas our secular colleagues... I was about to say, maybe we should start drinking every time Bodie writes the word secular, but then I quickly realized what a horrible idea that would be.
That's a terrible idea.
Yeah. Oh, yes. If you think you saw a giraffe, no, you didn't. You're tearing me apart, Continental Drift! Oh.
High heat problem.
Where our secular colleagues believe these processes were slow and gradual over millions of years, creation scientists insist it all took place totally by catastrophic means, involving continental sprint rather than continental drift.
Again,
Ooh.
how'd you solve the problem?
However, many Christians who see the specific mention of the earth being divided in the days of Peleg, as quoted from Genesis 10:25, appeal to this particular time for the biblical explanation for continental shifting. I mean, look, Bodie is right that that's not what the passage is about. So, like, we can give him, like, minor props for that, right? Like, yes, correct, Bodie.
Yep.
That is not what this passage is about. However, when you couch it in, like, a whole bunch of pseudoscientific, physically impossible nonsense, it kind of undermines the point that you're trying to make there.
But should we also maybe give Bodie a little bit of credit here
We just
for
did.
being even more?
Okay.
Even more. Listen, for being not wrong about how problematic it is, potentially,
Mhm.
that no one noticed the continental drift during the flood.
Yeah, you'd think that would be a bigger deal than just one offhanded mention in one genealogy somewhere in the middle of Genesis. Yeah. I mean, although I will also remind Bodie,
I mean, how could they see it? Maybe it was happening on the other side of the planet from where the boat was. Duh.
No, because Peleg is post the boat, so
that's
they would have
fair.
had to be able
That's
to see it.
fair.
But yeah, I guess we can give him a little bit, a few more points there. Vishanti, do you want to take over now that we have a new set of bold letters?
Okay. Did the Continental division take place in the days of Peleg? The context of Genesis 10.
Oh,
A careful search of the context of Genesis 10:25 clearly reveals that the referred to division of the earth regards dividing up the post-flood people on the basis of languages and families and moving them into different geographical locations. In fact, all of Genesis chapter 10 is dedicated to dividing up Noah's family into its three major divisions based on Noah's three sons and their families, and then to further list the sub-family groups. Because these genealogical lists encompassed all the people on the post-flood earth, the division referred to in verse 25 must have affected the entire post-flood human population. Several other verses dotted throughout Genesis chapter 10 indicate that it was these people who were being split up by language and moved across the earth to different geographical locations or lands. Quote, separated into their land, Genesis 10:5. The families of the Canaanites were dispersed, Genesis 10:18. According to their families, according to their languages and their lands and in their nations, Genesis 10:20. Even the culminating verse to the chapter states, these were the families of the sons of Noah, according to their generations, in their nations, and from these the nations were divided on the earth after the flood, Genesis 10:32.
Hey,
chronological sequence of events. What?
I was just gonna say, can you scroll that up for a little bit here, Dapper? I just want to point out, because these are the sorts of things that I think are cool. I believe we're looking at. I've mentioned this before, right? Like this genealogy in Genesis chapter 10 is actually combined from a couple of different sources, and we see the evidence for this in a variety of ways.
I think you showed us your chart that you made.
Yeah. I made some. I've made some videos about this too that I think are fire. So go check those out. But this bit at the end here, these were the families of the sons of Noah according to their generations in their nations, and from these nations were divided on the earth after the flood. This is actually a formulaic trope of one of probably the P author, for lack of a better identification, in this genealogy that he repeats, like, I think it's 3 times throughout the whole thing. It's pretty cool.
If you want a better designation than P, you could just call it Riley. The P author, the Riley author. Vishanti gets it. I
don't. Oh God, I'm such a knob. I don't know what that means.
It's Mothra. I'm taking you for fact. Real quick, Anthony Riley is a flat earther who used to stream pretty regularly, and one time, he just relieved himself on stream into an off-camera bottle, and it was very, very obvious because you could hear it as well as see his facial expression.
God, you were
Nope.
kidding.
So now, among certain corners of YouTube, taking a Riley is to go take a pee.
No.
So you could refer to the pee author as the Riley author if you wanted to.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, he also used to go by
maybe I'll
Sleeping Warrior.
start doing that. Yikes.
Yeah, so now you
Did
know.
you say he drinks his own urine?
No.
Okay.
Okay. I can't say he definitely doesn't, because he hasn't said he. Yeah, as far as I know, he hasn't said
Sure.
I don't do that. But I assume that unless someone says that they do, that they don't, because I find like that's best for my sanity, as well as probably just the most likely. Rick Superbo says you've been watching too much FTFE. I mean, we have a show together, so I have to keep up. Which, by the way, is on Fridays. Go check it out. Which had a really great episode. There was a love story that started. We started a love subplot in the last episode of Star Trek Lexington.
Wow.
So, yeah. Yeah. And also, it brought up the question of how does a human and a Dosian get it on? Because it's not clear how any of that works. Especially since they have 3 legs and 3 arms, and we're not sure what else. So, so here's one thing that I want to point out here. So
I bet they're good with their hands.
All 3 of them, yeah. So one of the weird things here is Bodie seems to say that the Table of Nations is like, he seems to be treating it as an exhaustive list of who went out from the plains of Shinar to spread across the rest of the world, right? But he also says that that is the groups that were divided by language, which should mean that he thinks that there were 70 language families originally. But elsewhere, he's also listed it as over, like, I think 150. So this brings up, like, twofold questions. One is, well, how do you fit nearly or more than twice as many language families as there are nations listed in the Table of Nations if the Table of Nations is supposed to be both exhaustive and divided by language? That doesn't make any sense. Second, there's the fact that we know what most of these nations are, and many of them speak very closely related Afro-Asiatic languages, right? So, like, there's that problem. So, a huge swath of the 70 nations in the Table of Nations actually come down to one language family. And second, how do you fit in, like, I don't know, like Austronesian language families, or Japonic, or Athabascan, which is a Native American language family? Like, where do those go in the Table of Nations? Because for the most part, we know what those nations were referring to, and there aren't that many that are mysterious that you could shove all the rest of the 150 or so language families into. So this whole idea that he's promoting really only kind of makes sense if you don't actually ask any questions about the details. Once you actually start asking, like, specifically, hey, where did the Udo-Aztecan speakers fit into the Table of Nations? What's he gonna say? What could he possibly say as a good place to stick Udo-Aztecan?
Maybe the secret genius of Bodie Hodge is that all languages are at their root Semitic languages.
Oh my god. Again, we're just reverse engineering Mormonism. Cool.
Yeah.
But the thing is, he's already explicitly stated otherwise in this book. So that's part of the problem, right?
Yeah,
like,
that's fair, right? Yeah.
So,
you can't argue for
Wow.
hyperdiffusion and then special plead away the Mormons.
No.
Like, that's not how that works.
No.
Yeah, as Jillian
All right.
Rock Candy Mammoth points out, so like all Yek stuff then. Yeah, I mean, that is the theme that goes with Yek stuff. It's just that I've never really applied it to their linguistics before. Which, I'll be honest, I didn't think their linguistics were going to be this bad, but people in my chat assured me that it would be this bad. And y'all were right. I was wrong. I will admit it. It is far worse than I thought. Maybe I'm just too
Shall
generous
I
of a person.
continue?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. The chronological sequence of events on what happened at the Tower of Babel is given in Genesis 11, where we are told in verse 8 that, quote, the Lord scattered them abroad from there over the face of all the earth, end quote. But it's actually in Genesis 10, where we are told about the different groups of people who were divided into their families with different languages as a result of the Tower of Babel judgment.
So yes, it is the Table of Nations, because that's what he's talking about there, right? Isn't that where the Table of Nations is in Genesis 10?
That's where it is.
So
Yes.
yeah, that's exactly what he's trying to say. Bodie, which of the 70 nations spoke Uto-Aztecan? I want to know. Please tell me. Or sorry, I should say Proto-Uto-Aztecan, to be fair.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah. If you think you saw a giraffe, no, you didn't. For 100 Argentinian pesos, says Kip, you're completely wrong. We established the original language was pre-Yiddish. That's true. The
True.
original language is in fact
Yeah.
pre-Yiddish, which is one of the most famous languages in the Bible. Pre-Yiddish.
spoken by the ordained Essenes.
Right, exactly. Who apparently wrote large swaths of the Bible while the events were occurring, which means that the Essenes actually go way farther back in time than you think.
The evidence for that, the hard evidence for that, is probably in the cryptic texts.
Oh, yeah,
I would
I mean,
imagine.
yeah. Well,
And the
those
Emerald Tablets, of course.
obviously, yes.
But except Vish, the cryptic texts at Qumran are actually real, guys.
Yeah, well, they were written by Bigfoot. That's why they're called the cryptid texts, right?
No, cryptic.
Yeah, but cryptid
I
text
heard
is more
cryptid.
fun.
They were
Yeah.
written by Bigfoot.
Yeah, cryptid
Who's
text
actually
sounds more
Kane.
fun. Yeah. Okay, so to be fair, my understanding is that was more of a tongue-in-cheek idea than an actual thing that many Mormons ever believed. So, but I still do like it that maybe Bigfoot is just Cain, wandering the earth,
Just wandering around.
immortal, and hairy. Very,
I mean,
very
it's
hairy.
crazy because for Kane to still be walking around and not be like in torpor, that's impressive.
Yeah, or maybe he's like the SCP Cain. He's just a really chill dude.
Hmm. Maybe he's like Helena, who just like started diablerizing enough people to where she stopped hearing the beckoning.
There you go. I do like the
It's a lot of
SCP.
kindred.
Cain and Abel are real, and Cain is just some chill dude, and Abel is a crazy murder hobo who only wants to kill things. Yeah, I like that.
Incredible.
All right. You know, we're gonna take a quick break
Okay.
because I feel like if we start continuing on and then have a discussion, it'll go well past the break time, and I am running low on beer, so I'm gonna go get myself another Modelo Negra. And
Could I grab a beer?
well, yeah, we're going on break, Kip. So as long as you're back,
I know, but
you can do almost anything.
Hmm.
You could grab a beer. You could pet a dog. You could write a haiku.
Isn't that weird? There's like no dogs in this room.
You could
I
probably
just
find one.
noticed that.
That's
I probably could,
unacceptable.
Are there any in this room?
but why? What's going on?
Well, at least I know why there's no dogs in this room. Is that they're both probably sunning themselves in the other room where the sun's actually streaming in.
We don't. I mean, the sun does not live here.
Not at this time of year, no.
Hmm.
It'll visit in summer though, right? For a little bit.
Seriously though, it was either yesterday. Yeah, it was yesterday. It was just incredibly dark here yesterday. That's the wild thing. Look, I wasn't born here, and I guess I have now lived most of my life on the West Coast. But one of the things that took me a long time to get used to, and I still think I haven't got there, is just how unbelievably oppressively dark it can get in this godforsaken part of the world when the sun is shining. I'm told the sun is up there somewhere.
Yeah, but it's behind
But
mountains and whatnot.
My God, no, I mean like when it's right, above you. My God, it's like, I don't know. Yeah. Anyways.
Oh, that reminds me of a little anecdote from the final experiment where Nathan was on a live stream apparently. Or no, it's Austin, sorry. Sorry, Austin. Was on a live stream and he was asked like, so how high is the sun supposed to get? He's like, I don't know. So he looks it up and he's like, oh, it's supposed to get up to 30 degrees away from the horizon. So he looks up at the sun and he's like, that's way too high. I guess the globe got it wrong. And so then later, Toon came behind him with his actual Theodolite app and was like, that's weird because it's like 29 degrees. Huh.
Nice.
So yeah, there was Austin thinking
Amazing.
he could just eyeball the height of the sun and declared it to be too high on the basis
It's too
of
high.
that apparently his eyeballs have like half-degree level accuracy in terms of measurements of angles.
My eyeballs are a sextant.
Yeah. It's actually weird. If you could go into like Austin Witzett's POV, the entire world is just listed with like a grid of angle measurements.
Yeah.
That's just very
He's got
convenient for
Terminator
him.
vision.
Yeah, it's very convenient. It's also sort of like you know, the little like the binoculars that Luke Skywalker uses in A New Hope.
Mm-hmm.
Got all the like little measurements and stuff. Yeah, it's very handy.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. That's Austin Winston. That's how he is so accurate and precise with his science. Like when he talks about how the moon goes into its inertial state and then it charges back up and becomes etherically displaced, and that's how the new moon works.
Listen, I'm gonna make a bold prediction here. The kind of bold that might rival Jesus' prediction of the destruction of the temple in 70. 2025 is going to be a year of
So far, so good.
dunking. Yes, there we go. of just endless dunking on the flat Earth community panic as a result of the final experiment.
Oh yeah, 2025 is going to be the year of TFE.
There are, I mean, there's hours and hours and hours and hours of this stuff already.
Yeah, and it's
right?
only January.
Like,
Yep.
My favorite cope remains. See, they actually went to Antarctica, but in Antarctica there was a giant LED dome designed to fake Antarctica in Antarctica.
It's the Las Vegas sphere, but in Antarctica, to fake Antarctica while you're in Antarctica.
Yes, all built, by the way, on a glacier, which is a thing that moves, which you can't really build permanent buildings on because it moves. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back, everybody. We are back. Kip is still off getting his beer, but that's okay because I'm going to do my quick after the break, discussion here, which is to say, hey, I really appreciate the degree to which my community is generously supporting me. I'm sure most of you know that there's absolutely no way that this channel could continue to function at the level that it functions at without your direct support. Basically, ad revenue from YouTube is pretty much useless, and given recent months and just how many YouTube sponsors just end up being complete scams, that's some of the reasons why, I'm not really keen on taking a lot of sponsorships, and none have come across that I actually wanted to take. Which is a double-edged sword, right? Because on the one hand, hey, you guys, can know that if I ever do take one, it'll be something that I actually do believe in and I don't think is a scam, and there's actually a product that I like. But on the other hand, it also means that until I come across such a thing, I am almost entirely at your mercy. And so that is why I appreciate that you have been so generous to me, whether it be in super chats, super thanks, super stickers, gifted memberships, and whatnot. But if you are currently not someone who is financially supporting and you want to, if you like what I do and you want to keep me at it for as long as possible, that's how long I want to do this, as long as possible. There are some great ways. The first one is the Patreon. That starts at $1 a month. It can go all the way up to $100 a month if you're feeling super generous. There's also a 15% discount there for going annually. There's the channel memberships. The channel memberships start at $1.99. They go up to $20. They both give you access to my Discord server. They both give you access to my scripted videos months and months early. I think right now we're around 5 months. It used to be 6, but I took a little bit of a break over parts of December until like very, very early January. So, we fell a little bit behind there, but still, it's still like 5 months worth of early access. That's a lot. There are better perks at higher tiers. The Patreon is linked in the description. The channel memberships, there's just a join button right below this video. Also, both Kip and Vishanti have Patreons, I believe, which are linked on their channels, which are also linked in the description. If a monthly or annual thing isn't your deal, but you still want to help out, there's a merch store listed right under this video. There are other designs if you don't like any of those that are on there. There are other products. Also, there's an Amazon wish list linked in the description for me. It's got a lot of mostly just fun stuff. Pretty much all the production stuff that I've had on there has been purchased, except for one super expensive home studio that I don't expect anyone to actually buy me, and it's just there for when I feel like I actually have enough money to buy it, so I don't forget about it. Also, Vishanti at least has a wish list linked, and I don't believe Kip has one. Do you, Kip?
Nope, I do not.
Well, maybe
I do have channel memberships, though.
Oh, well, there you go. Maybe you should get a wish list.
Maybe I should.
I mean, the worst that happens is no one gets you anything from your wish list, which is exactly what happens if you don't have one.
I'm a simple man, though. It would probably just be booze, but
I don't know. Well, I guess if you have a booze website that has a wish list function, that might work.
Yeah, probably not, right?
Vagrant Vagabond of Variant Vista says, do you need more rice? Here's a quick way to tell if I need more rice. Go to my wish list, check the rice entry. If it's currently on low priority, the answer is no. If it's on medium priority, then the answer is like, I could probably use a bag or two. And if it's on high priority, it means I'm out of rice. Please help. That's how you tell. So again, whether or not you're able to financially support, that's great. Either way, please just like the video, subscribe to the channel, put on notifications, and share my videos around, because those are free ways that you can help out. And please don't give me anything that you can't afford. This is, this should come out of your entertainment budget. This shouldn't be coming out of your rent or your groceries or your kids' orphanage bills. None of those. So.
Actually, Vadim actually has a. Sorry, Vadim has an excellent point that I didn't think about. Yeah, I'm always in need of doggo stuff.
There you go.
Man,
actually,
that shit gets expensive.
Beethoven, no relation, as well as Chesh have doggo stuff wish list. In fact, actually, I believe Chesh has a specific wish list for her dog.
Cool.
There's a separate Puck wish list versus the Chesh wish list, because the Chesh wish list is for her. Puck is for her dog Puck, who is not named after the hockey puck apparently, but is in fact named after the Shakespeare character.
Shakespeare character, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Much. Yeah. Everyone's like, oh, so you're Canadian, so you named your dog Puck like a hockey puck? No.
No, you uncultured swine.
Yeah. So,
which is, They do a phenomenal Shakespeare festival out there close. I don't know exactly where Vish lives, but I think she lives relatively close by to the place where they do the
I'll say
Shakespeare
she's in
festivals.
Ontario. Like
Yes,
like approximately 40% of all Canadians or something.
something like that.
Where's the Shakespeare Festival? Like, specifically?
Stratford.
Never heard of it.
It- Probably because you don't live here, but
I was told to go to to just move to Windsor because it's the warmest city in Canada, and I'm like, okay, but the warmest city
That's not saying a lot.
in Canada is much colder than
the
the
one
coldest
right
city in
across the
Arizona.
river from Detroit.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been there.
Also, that's where Donnie Deals lives, and no thank you, I don't want to live in the same city as Donnie Deals. All right, I was about to say Chesh. Vishanti, who is a different person to Chesh, and who is also more frequently on my channel. Would you care to continue?
Okay. The chronological sequence of events on what happened at the Tower of Babel is given in Genesis 11, where we are told in verse 8 that, quote, the Lord scattered them abroad from there over the face of all the earth, quote ends. But it's actually in Genesis 10, where we are told about the different groups of people who were divided into their families with different languages as a result of the Tower of Babel judgment. It is appropriate to compare scripture with scripture in the context it is written. There are 4 verses listed above in chapter 10, verses 5, 18, 20, and 32, which explain the parenthetical statement in verse 25 that, quote, in his days the earth was divided, end quote, as the division of family groupings according to the languages God gave them into different lands across the face of the earth. Is that a parenthetical statement? So I don't think it is.
Well, I mean, it's not in the original Hebrew,
on the name,
but he likes to call it parenthetical because I think he would, if translating the Bible himself there, put like in parentheses, for in his day. That's his like emendation, like how he would prefer a biblical translation. And you know what? Hebrew has a very different. Well, I'll just say this, right? Punctuation in English is going to be very, very loosely based on any kind of punctuation in the Hebrew because there's less punctuation overall. And so I would say that translators probably have a little bit more leeway with punctuation than they do with most other things. And so while I agree, I wouldn't put it in parentheses. I'm not going to tell someone who does that they're not allowed to or that it's wrong. I would just prefer that they not. That's my take.
Okay.
All right.
Verse 25 was not referring to an actual physical division of the Earth from one supercontinent into today's many continents.
I agree, Bodie.
He just thinks that's the ice caps melting.
Bravo.
Another flood!
Well, I guess...
Exclamation mark!
I guess that means it's Kip's turn because...
all right.
We established bold letters are the turning points. Or wait, no, because this is bold and italicized. But I just said bold, so it is bold, so here we go. Kip, go for it.
Okay. Let's stop and consider for a moment what would be the effect of the breakup of a supercontinent followed by the sprinting of the new continents into their present positions.
It would be a heat problem. The heat problem. Let's take a drink of the heat problem.
Right?
There would also be crazy ass earthquakes everywhere.
But this is a great answer, guys. This is a great answer. I bet you didn't think about this. In late 2004, there was an earthquake in the eastern Indian Ocean, resulting in movements of up to 15 or more feet along faults. The energy of that earthquake was transmitted through the water above, producing an enormous tsunami that devastated coastlines all around the Indian Ocean basin. And even a few feet of movement on the San Andreas Fault in Southern California caused the ground to shake for many miles around and freeways and other structures to collapse.
This is how I know he doesn't live anywhere near the San Andreas, because the far worse effects of the movement happen in San Francisco, which is quite literally sitting directly on top of that fault.
Which is a silly place to put
in Southern California. That's way out in the desert. Like, it's separated from us by an entire mountain range and then some more desert. So, yeah, we can feel it. No question. But, That's real far away from the LA metro area, whereas literally San
Mm.
Francisco's directly freaking on top of the fault. The fault runs into the ocean just under San Francisco. Like, dude.
Make a
I
better
hate
place
this.
for your city.
It does feel like this was fated. By the way, I know, it's Canada, so we have like shit Netflix, but I started watching
Get a VPN.
yeah, I know. But there's like a new documentary series on Netflix all about the 2004 catastrophic tsunami in the Indian Ocean. It looks pretty great. I think it's on Netflix. Maybe it's on Disney Plus.
I don't have Disney
That
Plus,
actually
I
kind of
wouldn't
does
know.
sound like a Nat Geo thing, doesn't it? I actually think I might not have Disney Plus anymore either.
Uh-oh.
But yeah.
Well,
Anyways,
if you get Disney Plus, even for a little bit, they now get to kill your family members, and you can't sue them for it.
Right.
So that's fun.
Oh boy. Shall I continue?
Yes.
If the continents did indeed split apart in the days of Peleg, moving thousands of miles into their current positions in a catastrophic manner, the resulting devastation would have utterly destroyed the face of the earth and everything living on it. The ocean waters would have flooded over the continent in huge tsunamis, creating a second worldwide flood event. Oh, I get it. Bodie objects to this idea because he doesn't think Peleg was alive during the actual flood. That's the whole thing.
Also, I think he's actually probably more closely relating this to the covenant sealed with the rainbow that says that God isn't going to flood the earth again. That's my guess as to where he's going with it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. In Genesis 10 and 11, we see no written description of such an event. To the contrary, at the end of the flood in Noah's day, God made specific statements that he would never allow another worldwide flood to ravage the Earth's surface
prediction
and
take
its
a drink.
inhabitants. There you go. And its inhabitants.
Catastrophic flooding over the whole earth is impossible because my theology.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Also, I want to point out that Bodie has here made it clear that if there's a worldwide calamitous event, then the Bible would record it. And if the Bible didn't record it, that's good reason to think it didn't happen.
That means it didn't happen.
But here's a problem for that. Bodie thinks there was an ice age after the flood, which is not anywhere recorded in the Bible.
Ice age.
So, hey, Bodie,
Uh-huh.
how does your logic here interface with your idea that there was a giant ice age event?
Oh, well, you see, the ice caps were way further north outside of what they thought of as the world. So they just didn't know about it to write it down because it didn't happen.
Yeah, but it was a worldwide climactic event, though. Even if you're not under a glacier, it's still going to make a big difference. The ocean levels are going to be different, which is going to mean that there's a flood coming. Like, the climate's going to be different. It's going to be much drier, much colder. Like, all of this is a thing.
He hasn't thought through this.
No. So go ahead.
He's got some footnotes here, which I assume are just the texts.
Yeah, it looks like it's just the texts.
Right. It just looks like the texts. Of course, in order to shore up their belief that Genesis 10:25 is a reference to continental breakup during the days of Peleg, some may respond that God somehow miraculously held back the ocean waters to keep another flood from happening while this land division occurred. However, there is absolutely no indication in Scripture, not even a hint, that this was the case.
Bodie, you work, or at least you worked for AIG
right?
when you wrote this. I want Bodie to tell me where in Scripture it says that Noah's Ark had a moon pool. Because the Ark Encounter has a moon pool. Where in Scripture?
And central air.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, there's that too. Noah's biblically accurate HVAC system. It's one of my... Every once in a while, I used to follow the Ark Encounter Twitter. Every once in a while, they'd say things like, "What's your favorite part of the Ark Encounter?" And my response was always, the biblically accurate HVAC system.
Yep.
Excellent.
Yep.
Yeah. And I actually heard someone come back with like, well, they had to follow modern building codes. It's like, okay, that would be that might be a good excuse if the only reason that HVAC system were there were the building code. But you know as well as everyone else that if there was no HVAC system, it would be literally fatal in there because they would deplete the oxygen, because the only place where air can come in or out without the HVAC system is one little hole at the top and the door. And that building is way too big to be properly ventilated, given how many guests come in there by just those two things. Because the Ark is fundamentally unsuitable for keeping things alive in. There's a reason why, like, one of the biggest engineering challenges with livestock ships is the ventilation. Because livestock will quickly run out all the oxygen, fill it up with carbon dioxide and methane.
And methane.
And I don't know if you know, but a methane and carbon dioxide mix is not something that you can just breathe.
Bad, right?
Yeah, it's really bad.
Pretty bad.
So, like, yeah,
So you've been right to the Ark encounter?
I have not. I'm just very familiar with what's in there because I keep track.
And they just have the one window, the one biblically accurate window.
Yeah, that's their only window is at the top of the Ark. Yeah, and as well as the door.
Interesting.
But they have an extensive HVAC system that keeps all the air in there fresh. Which is what
building codes. If
you look at the back of the Ark, it's just a big concrete box.
Yeah, it's a big building.
And it's full of all the industrial stuff that helps keep it livable.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm pretty sure they have backup generators in there. I know that's where they house most of the machinery for the HVAC system. I'm pretty sure they have some kind of water or something going on there. Like it's probably where their water pumps are for water pressure and whatnot. I mean, it's the back end. It's all the industrial equipment that keeps it functioning as a building that Noah couldn't possibly have had. Yes?
If you think you saw a giraffe, no, you didn't. Right. Can't breathe methane and CO2? Skill issue.
Well, I'll tell you what. At some point, maybe I will create a Ungoy avatar for the channel, and my little grunt buddy, he will be able to drink the methane nitrogen mix. If I remember correctly, that's what the grunts breathe.
I don't want to go to the Ark encounter only because I don't want to give them money.
It's a huge amount,
too. It's not because I couldn't drive there because I've driven to Kentucky from Birmingham, Alabama to get ice cream before, so it wasn't like I couldn't just take a road trip. And yes, that was extremely worth it, by the way. I just want you to know that was worth every minute.
It's one of those things where it's just so much money, too. If it were like $10, I'd go anyway. I don't care.
If it was $25, I'd be like, okay, that's not bad. But if it's like 40 or something, I'm like, nah, you're not.
It's more than that, I think, isn't it?
Well, let's find out. Let's see what the adult ticket is. So let's see.
But yeah, I just want to give a quick shout out to Cheney's Dairy Barn in Bowling Green, Kentucky, because they have the best pumpkin ice cream I have ever tasted in my entire life. Like the pumpkin patch from which they get their pumpkins is behind the Dairy Barn. It is so good.
Who thought it was a good idea to make ice cream out of pumpkins?
Cheney's Dairy Barn, and it is so delicious.
So is it like nutmeg and cinnamon that they?
No, they actually use pumpkins in their flavoring. It's not just like
pumpkins don't. It's not
taste
just
this reminds me of pumpkin pie. No, it's so good.
Wow.
Oh my god.
All right,
I remember calling them that day and going, "Hey, I'm about to drive up and get some ice cream. You guys still have pumpkin left?" They're like, "Hang on, let's go check in the fridge or the freezer." And they were like, "Yeah, we got a few gallons." I was like, "All right, save me like a pint or two. I'm gonna drive up and get it." They're like, "Oh, where are you from?" I was like, "Birmingham." And they're like, "Alabama?" I was like, "Yeah, I'll be there in like 3.5 hours."
Yes, there's a super chat that has come in that I have not hit. Lieutenant Fitz of Rage for $2 says AIG is a worldwide climactic event.
No kidding.
So I did just double check, and a day pass general admission Ark Encounter ticket for an adult is $64.99 US, which is, I mean,
insanity.
$65 to go to the Ark Encounter. F that.
Now that is ignoring that if you want the park, I believe their parking costs $15 for the day.
F that.
So if you, as a single individual, want to drive to the Ark Encounter and experience it for a day, and not buy any food there, not spend anything at the gift shop, just go in and park your car and then walk around, That is
$80.
going to be an $80
$80
that.
American dollars.
Yep.
Are
No.
they?
That's like
Are they
310
charging-
Canadian dollars or something, right?
Oh, easily. Yeah, it's a mortgage payment. Are they charging money to take the bus from the parking lot to the Ark encounter yet?
Don't
And
believe that's the
how
case.
soon before they start charging money
Don't give them
to
ideas.
take the bus
Yeah.
from the
My-
parking lot
My
to the?
current understanding is that the bus ride is at no additional charge. Which,
Wow.
given that the
Wow.
parking lot is something crazy, like a half a mile or something from the actual Ark encounter, at least they have that. That's although I would say it's no additional charge, but like I'm pretty sure that's what the $15 parking fee is mostly for.
Maybe
Also,
that's what it's to
Hey,
operate the buses.
everyone
yeah.
that builds giant ass parking lots, you can cover those with solar panels and not only give people shade, but also generate electricity because
Yeah,
the
but
sun.
But that doesn't subdue the Earth sufficiently.
Not
Yeah, that's
sufficiently.
one of those commie liberal things.
Yeah. Oh, you want there to be like lower pollution and better energy usage?
Idiot.
Yeah. If you think you saw a giraffe, no, you didn't. For 100 Argentinian pesos says, I saw you charging $65 for the Ark, and and I'm like, F you and F it too.
F you
Yep.
and F it too.
And then Kyle Pratt for $4.99 says, fun in this great friend hangout until Dapper gets quality Castle Core sponsors. We'd get an armored Dapper avatar.
I want to see you try to put a pauldron on those tiny little arms.
What, you think I couldn't put a
Little
pauldron on?
shoulders.
I could definitely do a pauldron. Until Games Workshop gets whiff of the fact that I'm using the word pauldron, and they come and sue me because they think they can copyright the word pauldron.
And you can just laugh them out of court.
Well, I mean, yeah. Okay.
Oh, Tesla
I don't-
Ranger's asking, do they make solar panels tough enough for parking lot surface? Why would you want to put them on
no.
the surface of
Yeah.
the parking lot? That defeats the point. Then you're covering them with cars.
a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you put it
put up the
over,
little steel frames and slap them on the top.
yeah, that has the double advantage of also putting up shade for your parking lot, which means that the cars won't get stupid hot because it can get
Yeah.
hot there in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, shaded parking is often like a premium thing here in Arizona because everything gets so hot. You can get into a car, and I mean, it can be 50 plus degrees Celsius
Yeah,
easy.
It is freaking crazy.
Easily.
That's why it's really nice
Nuts.
that lots of places here have been adding like covered parking lots with solar panels. Like the Huntington Beach Library has it, my old synagogue has it, my old job office thing has it. Like it's nice
Although,
in the summer. Like
here is
let me
one
tell
nice
ya.
thing about Arizona. If you park your car in the sun and you put just a tray of like, some wax paper and some cookie dough balls on there, by the time you get out of work or whatever, you will have fresh baked cookies.
Yup, cookies.
Now,
And then your car smells amazing.
exactly. Now, it does actually still take like 8 or something hours to actually effectively bake the cookies because it's not as hot as an actual literal oven. But it will still happen. Eventually, they will bake, and you will have cookies for real. All right, so let's keep.
Crazy.
And you can
right?
have cookies on your way home.
Yeah. All right, let's keep going.
Yeah, I was thinking when Tesla Ranger texted that in that they certainly wouldn't be tough enough for those super heavy electric cars. But then I went, oh wait, there's none of those in that parking lot either.
Yeah.
So,
If anything, there's
Yeah.
people rolling coal in that parking lot.
yeah, exactly.
Uh-huh. Yep. Yep.
Okay, I'm moving on. Where was I? Okay, quite clearly,
Oh, yes.
it is far better to err on the side of caution with regard to these scriptures. Yeah, because that's what we've been doing.
Yeah,
in
that's
this book,
Bodie's
isn't it?
MO, is erring on the side of caution.
Just very cautious in our approach. This is particularly necessary when the context of Genesis 10 has 4 other verses that confirm the meaning of verse 25 as referring to the division of people according to their languages into lands of their own across the face of the earth. Furthermore, this is in keeping with God's command to Noah that his family after the flood be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth.
So I'm going to take a drink because I do think that Bodie is basically right about this.
I think so, yeah.
So good job, Bodie.
Yeah.
It's insane.
He's right
But-
for the wrong reasons, though.
Well, to some extent, but also if we take this version of Bodie's like hermeneutical principles about how to interpret the Bible, it conflicts with many other things that he has said and elsewhere and in
Sure
this
does.
book. And that's the thing that's frustrating for me, right? Is it's like, so
Ever-
I know Bodie can do a good job of thinking critically about what could and couldn't be a reasonable interpretation and what does and doesn't correspond to things like, you know, reality. But it
Dapper.
means, oh, sorry, yes.
Hi, Maddie.
Hi, Maddie. I wave, but you can't see. And apparently Kip does not care that Maddie is here.
No, I'll wave. I was just looking. I was looking for her, and I was
Science side up is
where?
Maddie.
Science side up.
Oh, okay. All
Yeah.
right.
Actual
Maddie.
meteorologist.
She's the one who
Maddie
we
controls
file,
the weather machines.
Yeah, we
Yes.
file all of our weather-based complaints to Maddie because she's in charge of that.
Mhm.
So
Can she help me with my darkness problem?
yeah, Maddie, could you give Kip a
That'd
little
be
bit more
great,
sunlight? And also,
Yeah.
I don't like it that the last few days it's been hovering around 0 Celsius at night. Could you, like 1 or 2 degrees, just 1 or 2? I stepped outside this morning to go put some stuff in the recycling bin, and I could see my breath, and that is entirely unacceptable.
Ugh. Also, Maddie, can you turn the fires down in LA?
Yeah.
Thanks.
That maybe that one takes some priority.
Also,
Oh
Yeah.
wait.
if you could like up the temperature like about 10 degrees over in Canton, Massachusetts, because I have a friend who lives out there, and her heating just went out.
Just
So-
Canton.
Canton, just well, specifically for my friend whose heat went out. So now she has to huddle by the fireplace and place logs in it in order to stay warm in Canton, in what's honestly a too big of a house that her mom owns.
I've been reliably informed
Yikes.
in the chat that Maddie has received our complaints and they're very important to her, and she'll.
Yeah, she'll
Get
see
right
what
on
she
that.
can do. Yeah, set it right
Wonderful.
there.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Maddie. All right. Ooh, a major geographical
Major.
problem. This is not a minor geographical problem, or it's not even like
A diminished one.
like a
Or
first
an
or second,
augmented one.
or like a first or second lieutenant geographical problem. Right?
I
This
love
is
how
a
I went
major.
straight to music theory and you're like, nah, military ranks.
No, we went all sorts of them. We went major, minor. So I said minor too. So I covered some
True. True.
musical theory. You went on with it, and I also went to. We got to cover all our bases. Anyway, there is also a major geographical flaw with the claim that continents split apart in the days of Peleg. Okay, the description
wait.
of the flood of Noah's day in Genesis 8 says that on day 150 of the global year-long event, the ark ran aground in the mountains of Ararat. We read in verses 3 through 4, and the waters receded continually from the earth, and at the end of the 150th day the waters decreased. Then the ark rested on the 7th month and the 17th day of the month on the mountains of Ararat. Okay, why is this so significant? The mountains of Ararat should not be confused with the post-flood volcano in Turkey called Mount Ararat. As far as we know, as far as we can tell, the biblical reference to the mountains of Ararat speak of mountains located in the region of eastern Turkey and eastward towards the Caspian Sea. I would love to know how he knows that, but okay. The buckling of the rock layers within these mountains indicates that they were formed by continental collisions. I think he's actually right about that, so okay, good job, Bodie. So that's pretty good. Thus, if a supercontinent such as Pangaea broke apart in the days of Peleg to arrive at its present positions, then these mountains of Ararat would only have formed in the days of Peleg. Thus, they would not have existed on the day 150 of the flood for the ark to run aground on them. You know what, Bodie? That's actually not a terrible argument. But again, we come to a problem here. You are now recognizing that you can actually use the existence of geological features and the time frame in which things must have happened in order to relatively date when things happened. And I have bad news about that when it comes to geology, buddy. Because
Spoiler alert.
even if we ignore radiometric dating, there's at least several million years worth of geology visible to the naked eye in most places on Earth. So, maybe, Bodie, that was not the best argument to you. Because that's one of the problems, right? Creationists can actually use pretty decent arguments to defeat things that they don't think are true. And they even will use it on other creationists often, right? Like, there's this...
But I mean, it's a tool for them to use apologetically, meaning in an apologetics way. It's just there to confirm their predetermined conclusion.
Yeah.
It's not there to lead them to like an objective.
Coop23 for $2 says the geological problem isn't a minor; it can vote. Yes, indeed, it is old enough to vote. If you think you saw a giraffe, no, you didn't. For 100 Argentinian pesos says, is there a reason why much of the Bible places the origin of humanity in Hebrew somewhere in southern Iraq? Because it was written around there. It's a big part of it. It was also home of what was pretty clearly some of the longest.
Fertile Crescent.
Right.
Yeah.
And also, it's pretty clear that that part of the world had some of the oldest and longest running like inhabited areas. Because even though in like say the Iron Age, people didn't have the greatest idea of like ancient history, or even for them, it was very clear that the Mesopotamian civilization stretched back a very long way, even in the Iron Age.
Very true.
They recognized Sumer and Egypt as like the two oldies in town. So,
and they're right about that. And obviously, they had closer connections to Mesopotamia than they did to Egypt, linguistically, culturally, geographically. And also, Egypt was cast as the bad guy for a while, in part because of their hegemonic control over the area that probably set them up as being the bad guys in the eyes of a lot of West Semitic-speaking populations. So there's that
just
too.
put out a video talking about the relevant kingdom of Egypt that was active during that very period.
There you go.
Professor Dave?
Yeah.
Yeah,
he's
been
doing a video.
Like,
he's been doing some history stuff.
He's not just talking about chemistry or debunking. He also puts out history, philosophy, other science videos. So he's been doing a history of Egypt, and so he did like the Old Kingdom, Middle Kingdom. He's going to be doing the New Kingdom. He did a history on like Sumer, some other places. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
They any good?
He kind of butchers the pronunciation of certain names, but I honestly don't care because he's a chemist, not a historian, so it doesn't really matter.
That's a long-standing thing for Professor Dave, though. He's been butchering pronunciations of lots of things for a long time.
Yeah. But again, it doesn't freaking matter because he's a chemist. He's not a geologist, and he's not a historian, so he will tell you he's a generalist, and so that's why I don't really care if he mispronounced it, because he has a map up, so you can just see where he's talking about.
All right, so the mountains... Oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, far be it from the biblical scholar to point this out, but Bodie's 150 days of the flood only works depending on which version of this story you happen to be reading. That's the accounting according to the Riley version. The non-Riley version, pretty clearly says it lasted for 40 days and 40 nights.
I swear, if the Riley version becomes a thing in biblical scholarship,
40 nights. He's talking about the
water
standing before it assuaged.
I think you guys are thinking about this too hard.
Okay. Well, the mountains of Ararat appear to have been caused by the collision of the Eurasian plate with the Arabian and African plates. Fair enough. Perhaps influenced by the continental collision of the Indian plate with the Eurasian plate. Okay, maybe. I'm pretty skeptical on that one, Bodie. Thus, it would seem that most of the continental shifting between Europe, Asia, Africa, Arabia, and India most likely would have largely been completed before day 150 of the Genesis flood. Okay, so at least we now get a vague idea as to why they're putting what geological features they're saying are post-flood versus mid-flood or whatever. This is at least giving me an idea as to where they're getting some of those ideas. So I do appreciate it for that reason. Also, what is this here in like right?
The Nile.
Those are rivers, right? Like that's the Nile.
It's the two. Oh, it's the two. Okay, right. It's the two, but it's splitting into the two rivers that flow into make the Nile. Okay, get it.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Naturally, there could have been comparatively minor adjustments after this point in the flood, as the mountains of Ararat could still have been rising as further mountain formation occurred after the ark ran aground. Okay, yeah, that I guess is true. Again, there appear to be no hints in the biblical narrative of the flood in Genesis 6 through 9 that there were any major continental shifting across Earth's surface after day 150, at least in the region of the mountains of Ararat. So again, Bodhi's doubling down. If it's a major event and the Bible doesn't record it, then it didn't happen during the time that the Bible was being written or talking about. So again, hey, Bodhi wants to deal with that ice age. It's possible, however, that there could still have been minor continental movements on the other side of the globe with respect to North and South of America, Australia, Antarctica, and so on. This cannot be ruled out entirely. However, according to Genesis 8:2, the fountains or springs of the Great Deep were stopped, and the windows of heaven were closed up on day 150. I wonder what Bodie thinks the windows of heaven were, given that he's likes to pride himself on his literal take of Genesis. Because I can tell you what the windows of heaven are literally. They're literally openings in the solid dome
In
above
the
the flat
dome.
earth that let in the waters from above the heavens.
Goddamn dome.
Like,
Yep.
Actually-
There's sluice gates.
yeah.
Yep.
I actually,
Right.
I asked a creationist that once. It was someone who was visiting to speak at my church back when I was going to an evangelical young Earth creationist church, and I was like, "Well, what are these then?" And he was like, "Well, that's just that's figurative." And I was like, "Well, okay, if that's figurative, why is the rest of it literal? Like, where? How do we make the decision?" And he was like, "Well, we know it's figurative because we know that there aren't floodgates in the sky." I'm like,
Hashtag self-aware
okay,
wolf.
but and unfortunately, I was kind of shut up. So yeah, that was during the beginning of me like maybe there's not as much this whole young Earth creationism as I've been led to believe. Yeah, it's possible, however, that there could have still blah blah blah. Furthermore, if the springs were associated with the rifting of the Earth's crust and the seafloor spreading, which they're not, they're literally openings in the ground that let in the water of the same ocean, but from below the Earth. We know what these things are. Subduction of the mantle of convection that had moved the continental plates apart catastrophically, and the closure of these springs or fountains would seem to imply the process allowing for major movements of the continents would have stopped at this point, or at the very least begun to start decelerating and eventually reach their present snail's pace. So this is not super germane.
Why would they decelerate?
Because the fountain's closed? No, that doesn't make any sense.
They just put on the brakes because they were getting motion sick.
That's it.
So one thing I do want to point out is so this Bodie's idea here is catastrophic plate tectonics, which is a flood model that answers in Genesis, as well as a bunch of the other major creationist organizations. Like that's their thing, right? It's catastrophic plate tectonics. That's what they think happened. And it was modeled for them in a geophysics model, like a computer model, by a guy named Baumgartner, who used to work at the Sandia National Laboratories, if you are familiar with that place. It's where a lot of the research on developing the atom bomb for World War II took place. But one of the problems is that people have looked at his modeling software because he published it as part of his doctoral thesis, so it's publicly available. And the only way to get his results is if you change one important parameter, which is thermal diffusivity, which we're not going to get into too much, but basically it's how fast heat can travel from one part of a rock to another. And he had to increase it by about a factor of 1,000 in order to get his catastrophic plate tectonic work out. But you can't just declare that the thermal diffusivity of granite and basalt is 1,000 times higher than it is. It's just arbitrarily deciding that the boiling point of water is going to be, 100,000 degrees Celsius instead of 100 degrees. You can't just declare that and then say that your model proves something about water. That's not how it works. You're not modeling Earth. You're modeling something else. So the entirety of catastrophic plate tectonics starts off with some guy saying, what if I just make up my own numbers and then run a simulation? Oh my goodness, it got me to my flood model.
Numbers with blackjack and hookers.
Maybe.
Right.
I just thought of something. Maybe it was magnets.
Maybe it was.
Freaking magnets, how do they work?
Hey, Dr. Tapioca Weasel is in the chat, by the way.
Hey, what's up, Vandy?
Right.
Yeah. Magnets.
All the primary geologic processes responsible for forcing the catastrophic continental movements during the flood appeared to have likewise begun to rapidly decelerate on and after day 150. Also, Genesis 8:3 indicates that the floodwaters began to steadily decrease and therefore recede from this point onward, which would seem to indicate that the floodwaters were now subject to new land surfaces and topography rising and the valley sinking as a result of vertical earth movements. This is in stark contrast to the large horizontal movement and associated mountain building that shifted the continents apart in the first portion of the year. But Bodie, mountain building is a result of those horizontal movements. They're connected. You can't have significant vertical movement of the Earth without attendant and roughly proportional horizontal movement of the Earth. I'm just gonna take a drink. Oh my goodness. My unfinished journey for $6.66 says, "Hail Nero, hail Daps, Bish, and Dr. Semicolon. and hail the literal floodgates of heaven. I was like, well, how do I say this?
There was there was apparently a run on letters
well,
they were allowed to use for their super chat.
To be fair, if you want to keep
Yeah.
it within a certain price range, you do have a limited number. So, you know.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
for
is it
real?
my turn?
I had no idea.
The conclusion.
Yes.
Okay. Though continental division and shifting in the days of Peleg appears to be feasible from a superficial reading of Genesis 10:25 in isolation, this concept has some major problems associated with it.
I mean, it does, but so does his idea.
1. When Genesis 10:25 is read within the context of the whole of Genesis 10, the 4 other verses, that being 5, 18, 20, and 32, speaking of the division, clearly emphasize that this was a linguistic and family division of all post-flood people into different lands, geographical locations.
I'm going to make a prediction real quick here. At no point is Bodie going to tell us directly which language families correspond to which of the 70 nations, because if he were to do that, it would be too easy for even just people who just read the Bible to notice that there's something weird going on here. Because if he's like, well, maybe the ancestors of, like, the Moabites spoke, like, Proto-Indo-European, and the ancestors of, like, and he'll pick some other group of, like, Middle Eastern, Western Semitic-speaking peoples. Maybe those guys spoke, like, Finno-Ugric. And people are going to be like, I don't think any of this makes sense anymore, Bodie.
Getting precipitously close to where we need the guy from Instagram and TikTok to come in and go, hello, my friend. And then just completely destroy this.
My unfinished sock for $2. I don't think I have. My unfinished sock for $2.
He's a South Asian living in, like, I think Australia, and he debunks bad history.
Ah. My unfinished sock for $2 says, don't be a Bodie, like and share the stream instead. Agreed. If you don't like and share the stream, you are officially a Bodie. Which is not a thing you want to be. Now, you might want to be a Brody, because then you're like the sheriff from the island from Jaws. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Alright, point 2. Had the divisions of continents occurred during the days of Peleg, then the associated catastrophism would have resulted in another worldwide flood in violation of God's specific promise to Noah. He could have just used catastrophe. I mean, whatever. Point 3. Had the division of continents occurred during the days of Peleg, then the Ark, with Peleg's ancestors, would have had no place to land, as the mountains of Ararat produced by continental collisions would not yet have existed. Point 4. There is tremendous fossil and geologic evidence for continental division having occurred only during the flood.
Okay.
We, therefore, gently and lovingly, patronizingly, encourage our brothers and sisters in Christ to refrain from claiming the division of continents occurred during the days of Peleg. The phrase, "for in his days the earth was divided," in Genesis 10:25 needs to be kept and read within its context of Genesis 10 to give the statement its correct meaning. On the other hand, we also want to encourage people to realize that the flood is the only major catastrophic event and the only logical mechanism for splitting apart the continent.
There is...
Wow.
Since this was short, can I read
so many...
the next?
But there's so many background assumptions that are such a bad idea to make in that entire thing. It's like, I don't even know where to even begin if I were presented with this and saying, hey, what's wrong with this paragraph? It's like,
everything.
All of it.
Everything.
It's just so... Oh my goodness.
I at least want to read some of the next thing, because this was short.
Yes.
Answering a few objections. Footnote, I bet, is hilarious. Objection 1. Quote. To start with, the Hebrew word for earth in Genesis 10:25, 10:32, and 11:1 is the Hebrew edits in Strong's Concordance.
We're just drinking for Strong's Concordance.
Drink for Strong's Concordance.
Okay.
Strong's says this word means earth, field, ground, land, and world. In fact, the clear meaning of this Hebrew word for earth is a very strong indication that the Peleg reference has to do with the actual breakup of the landmass, end quote.
But this is the objection, right? This is the objection.
Yeah.
Answer.
But look, we've said it before, but there's no reason to ever use a concordance for anything.
No, right.
There's no reason to use Strong's Concordance for anything.
No.
Even just any
I
concordance.
just can't but help.
Get a lexicon.
So is he do you think he's making up this quote, or is he actually quoting this from somewhere?
Well,
Because
he's writing an objection.
Yeah,
yeah,
He's
yeah,
saying,
yeah.
oh, people are going to say blah, blah, blah. So his answer,
But I
there
can't
are
help but
other
notice.
uses. Okay, there are other uses
No,
of this
I
word, as Hebrew lexicons regularly point out, in particular nations and inhabitants. Those not fluent in Hebrew need
Like
to consult
Bodie.
reputable Hebrew lexicons, such as Brown Driver Briggs, or Keller and Baumgartner, or the Hollowt, to see how
Yeah.
each Hebrew word in its context should be used. I would say are used, not should be used. Naturally,
I have a hard
these
copy
do
of
not
this
hit
one.
every instance, but representative instances. Keep in mind, Eretz is used well over 2,000 times in the Hebrew Bible. So yes, I support using Brown Driver Briggs.
Guys,
That's
he
one of them.
used in the space of those 2 paragraphs there, he used the word Hebrew like 7 times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you don't need to do that. Like there are other words. You most of these you just don't need, right? Because in context, we know that if you're talking about lexicons, to look up the word eretz,
But
we
even look at
know
this
what
first
language it
sentence.
is.
The Hebrew word for earth is
There's more than one
Hebrew.
Hebrew word for earth.
Yeah. Starting from here, we
It's
don't need
Hebrew Eretz, yeah.
any of these other instances of the word Hebrew. That's just
Yeah.
poor writing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so BDB uses as one of its representative examples that Genesis 11:1 is in reference to the inhabitants of the earth, and he's quoting Francis Brown there. However, the 2 brought up in Genesis 10 were not mentioned. Though the Keller and Baumgartner doesn't reference any of the 3 pointed out, it does reference 2 Chronicles 12:8, where Eretz is used for nations and kingdoms as well as several others to indicate countries and regions of people. And he quotes 2 Chronicles down in the footnote, nevertheless they will be his servants, that they may distinguish my service from the service of the kingdoms of the nations. I'm gonna go look that up. Y'all talk amongst yourselves.
All right.
I need to check something.
So I mean, look, Bodie is right that if someone did say this to him, it's not a great argument to argue that
Terrible.
because Eretz could mean world, that it does in this particular case.
Second
or
Chronicles,
yeah,
real quick.
and that is
Can you scroll down just slightly real quick? I want to make sure I get it.
12:8.
Okay.
So I mean, yeah, sure, I guess that, but part of the problem then is that one, Bodie doesn't speak Hebrew, right? He's saying this as if like he's like, well, I mean, if you were actually someone who knew Hebrew, Bodie, you don't know Hebrew. You don't. We can tell very clearly that you don't know Hebrew based on many of the things that we've already read. So that's a big part of it. But the other thing is
lands. Okay, yeah. Kip, if you've never read this particular thing, or if you haven't read it in a while, it's pretty
But 2 Chronicles 12:8?
12:8, yeah, the Ha'aratzot.
Mamlukot
their
Ha'aratzot?
lands. Yeah, Mamlukot Ha'aratzot. It's like kingdoms of the lands, or kingdoms of their lands, or whatever. Like,
Well, yeah, it's literally
Kingdoms of the
it's
earth, but-
kingdoms of the lands. It's plural.
yeah, but it's like
So-
you have to match the. If the noun is plural, the descriptor needs to be plural as well. So, that's also part of that.
Thanks
So,
for agreement.
Yeah,
Grammar.
thank you. That was the word I was looking for. They need to
Yeah.
agree. So I'm not sure why he's like. He's trying to say, oh, this indicates countries and regions and people. Yeah, but that's not helping your point there, buddy.
Basically, his only point is that like the word has multiple meanings, and you need some context to know what it means. And he's right there. I mean, his overall point isn't wrong that this word has multiple meanings, just like most words in most languages. And you need to check out to see, like, even if I just said a simple English word like interest, does that mean that I have a particular fascination with a subject? Does it mean that I am charging some amount of money based on how much money was loaned out in the first place? Like, that one word has numerous meanings. And especially biblical Hebrew had it did have a smaller lexicon in English. And so on average, a lot of its words did have more senses than often happens in English as common senses, right? Like in English, we don't usually use the same word as for like a geographical region and the whole world and the physical substance. Like the word earth usually just means either the dirt, the soil, or the whole planet. We use other words to describe other things that eretz can mean, like land, which we usually don't conflate with just... Land usually means the surface of the earth as taken geographically and not as taken like the physical constituents thereof. Like the words like soil and land aren't synonymous, even though in some ways they really are referring to the same thing, because what is the land if not the soil and the rocks?
But also you have a different word for that, like Adama.
Yeah. Well, there is that
where
too.
you're talking about like the components of the earth.
Yeah.
So.
All right, here we go. We'll scroll down. If I can figure out where my mouse is.
Okay, so to exclude this definition may not be wise. Did I read the... Yeah, I did. Okay.
You did.
And considering that BDB used eretz specifically in Genesis 11:1 to refer to people confirms the point, according to leading Hebrew lexicons that utilize the context. These would be referring to the people being divided by language.
What are the leading Hebrew lexicons that don't utilize the context? Which ones would those be?
Yeah, I'm also like, bro, what? You've
Strong's.
had your word count.
That's not
Also,
a lexicon.
keep in mind that if one wants to argue for eretz to mean continents, this is not even listed as a definition among the lexicons because they didn't know what continents were.
That's pretty dumb.
I'm going to take a drink.
You idiot. It's like saying, oh, well, this lexicon doesn't use the word dinosaur because they didn't know what dinosaurs were. You fool.
Yeah, I'm going to have to say that if you were to teach an ancient Hebrew speaker about the existence of like Africa and Eurasia and like Australia, they would call each of those regions an eretz.
Yes.
And that in that case, it would be roughly corresponding to continent. I don't know why Bodie bothered with that section. That's a silly thing to say.
I wonder
Well,
what he thinks.
Bodie.
What he thinks the word for continent would be in a lexicon.
I'm not even sure I want to know.
I'm
so dumb.
Yep.
All right, let's get objection 2 in here. Do you want to pass it off to Kip or you want to keep going? We do have to speed through these though because we're about to wrap up.
Okay, well then I'll just speed through
it's
it. 'Cause
probably you.
I'm a faster reader.
Okay.
Objection
Yes.
2. Actually, you are incorrect that the Peleg reference comes in the middle of an account of the division of the languages. It comes in the middle of a genealogy. The story of the division of languages comes afterwards, separately. Answer. Genesis 10 is a breakdown of the language divisions that are discussed in more detail with the chronological account in Genesis 11. Even Genesis 10 points out, after each genealogy of Japheth, Ham, and Shem, that it was a linguistic division in accordance with their family group to their nations. Consider the phrases in Genesis 10 that summarize and signify the context of language in these verses. Quoting, "From these coastland peoples of the Gentiles were separated into their lands, everyone according to his language, according to their families and to their nations. These were the sons of Ham, according to their families, according to their languages, in their lands and in their nations."
What translation is this? Because I feel like this word and this word are going to be the same underlying word, and that there's no good reason to translate them differently in this particular verse. Am I wrong about that?
Trying to remember. I'll just pull it up.
Yeah,
quickly.
while you do that, we'll have...
I don't know about the translation, but...
These were the sons of Shem, according to their families, according to their languages, in their lands, according to their nations. The context of Genesis 10 is indeed referring to linguistic divisions from which the nations were being divided. Even Josephus, prominent Jewish historian, understood this to mean a division of nations. Consider Josephus's comments here. Haber began Yoktan and Peleg, or Phaleg, depending on how your Greek is. He was called that because he was born at the dispersion of the nations to their several countries. For Peleg, among the Hebrews signifies division, quoting the works of Josephus. But he's not quoting Josephus. He's quoting a translation by William Whitson, which is ridiculous.
And we made this point last week when he quoted Philo.
Yeah, there's an internal reference
this
system.
Is right. Yeah. So Josephus wrote he wrote the Antiquities of the Jews, which is where this would have come from, and it comprises 20 individual books, right? So yeah, this is just a fail, Bodie. It's bad.
Do you want me to keep reading, or do you?
So
want me
I just want to double check. So
pass it off.
You did look it up, and the words Gentiles and nations were both
the same word. Yeah,
and
it's the same.
Why would you translate that word differently when it occurs twice in the same sentence?
Right,
referring to the same thing, basically.
This is one of my early I wonder what's really going on here moments, because once I started to learn a little bit of Hebrew, I was like, why'd they translate it this way? And then a different way, I was like, wait, what's going on here? Could this be theological bias?
I don't know.
Turns out the answer was
Maybe.
yes.
Sci10-616 for 25 bronze,
Titan.
which I'm not sure what a ron is, but thank you for giving me 25 of them. Do let me know, someone in the chat, what a ron is, because I would like to know. I appreciate.
I think I just looked this up the other day.
Oh.
Wasn't it Brazilian reals?
Is it Brazilian reals?
I don't think it's.
No, it's Romanian leu. That's right. He's in Romania.
Okay, thank you very much.
That's right.
Just wanted to say hi to our lovely goddess at Vishanti. Rock on with some rock on horns. Thank you very much.
Mulțumesc mult.
All right, let's update this.
One of the few Romanian lei.
I feel like there's a lot of Romanians. I don't know.
Well, there's not as many Romanians in this corner of YouTube.
Okay, that's fair. My macroeconomics professor was Romanian. So
I live near a pretty sizable Romanian diaspora, which is pretty cool. There's a good restaurant.
Actually, my oddly enough, my macroeconomics professor is the one who informed me that apparently a lot of Protestant churches in Romania celebrate Easter on the date for Orthodox Easter because that makes it easier for them rather than trying to celebrate it on the date for Western Easter. Which,
yeah,
I was like, yeah, that makes sense. I can see that.
It does.
And actually, hey, this year there's no difference. They're on the same Sunday this year. So congrats to all the Christians out there celebrating Easter. Y'all get to celebrate it on the exact same day. All right.
That's exciting.
There's the Romanian restaurant here is really cool. Dunaria. It's they've got all the good stuff, and they regularly have like live music.
So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to rush through objection 3 and on. And if it takes too long, we'll cut out an episode of Power Rangers that we watched later on today, because we're going to only watch the final 2 episodes of Samurai and then move on to Megaforce. And you know what? I'm okay with watching one fewer episode of Megaforce because it's Megaforce. It's not very good.
Not in a hurry.
Not in a hurry to get to actually, I'm in a hurry to get through Megaforce, but yeah.
Right.
Anyway.
Not in a hurry to watch it. Yeah.
Objection 3. Have you carefully looked at the word divided in each reference? They are 2 different Hebrew words. Palag versus parad. Ooh. The former can mean split or cleave, and the latter scatter. Which is being what is being divided appears since the Hebrew verb is different in both verses. Answer. The name Peleg, Strong's, oh my god, the actual Strong's number. In verse 25 is a variant of Peleg, which in turn is a derivation of Palag. The same root word for Peleg's name is also used in Genesis 10:25, Palag. It makes sense why it was used in direct reference to Peleg's name. Also, there's a different. It is still different from verse 32, where parad is used. However, they appear in the same context. Okay, great.
I happen to have very hyper-specific knowledge of the root parad, and it's for just the dumbest reason. However, it's the Spanish Frogs guy. He brought up the parad root, and I looked it up and did a whole thing on this. Parad is like to separate, as in when someone goes into like exile. Or someone is goes away from their land. It is specifically that type of separation. It's not the same kind of separation that you like dig a trough for water to flow through, which is what Peleg is referencing. Okay. So those are not the same type of dividing or separating.
What if I had a bunch of tomatoes that I was going to put into my sauce, but one of them has gone bad, and so I toss it out? Would that be parad?
Yeah, I mean, if you took it more out to like the street dumpster, that would be a little better.
Okay, well, I'm going to do that later once I finish cooking, and then I can take the trash out.
But if you, for instance, cut a trough in your tomato and then stuff something into it, that would be Peleg.
Like maybe some basil leaves and salt?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Parad, working backward, the Theological Workbook of the Old Testament points out that parad is in reference to the scattering people under the comment. They in turn reference A. Weidegger's Ugaritic Hebrew lexicographical notes. Lexicographical is a great word. Blah, 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 blah. In fact, parad is also the Hebrew word used in Genesis 10:5. From the coastland, peoples of the Gentiles were separated, parad, into their lands. Everyone according to his language, according to their families, into their nations. Deuteronomy 32:8 also uses parad in reference to the split of nations. There it is.
Bam.
Palag, the Hebrew word palag is only used 3 times in Scripture outside of Genesis 10. If he lists Genesis 10 as one of the 3 times outside of Genesis 10, because he did that earlier with Pangea.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
In 1 Chronicles 1:19, it repeats Genesis 10:25. In Job 38:24, it refers to a splitting of a water channel when it overflows. In Psalm 55:9, it refers to a splitting of languages. David was speaking of his enemies when he was asking the Lord to judge them with splitting of their tongues. Obviously, David was conjuring thoughts of the Tower of Babel and tongue shifting here. No, that's not obvious. Jeez. Bodie.
No, he literally means cleaving their tongues.
Yeah, I'm taking a drink. Jeez, Bodie.
Man.
Yeah.
Peleg's
Yeah,
name
I
was
would
a direct...
say the better word for Peleg is to say cleave.
Okay.
But yeah, whatever.
Peleg's name was a direct derivation of Peleg, and considering the context of Genesis 10, it makes sense the Hebrew name was indeed referring to a linguistic division. Okay, Bodie. So there would be no reason to distance ourselves from plain interpretation. So to reiterate...
Bodie's advocating the Pardes method.
Yeah.
Love it.
So he's never even heard of that. So to reiterate, when evaluating the question of an alleged continental split during the days of Peleg, we need to go back to the Bible. It should be obvious in the days of Peleg is discussing the context, which is the splitting of the earth by people, language, by people groups and language. Any splitting of continents would have occurred during the flood. So except for this last bit here,
geology and linguistics, bro.
Yeah, this part here, I actually do agree with Bodie on. That sentence, I think, yeah, Bodie, I agree overall. All right, well, let's see what's coming up next.
Indeed.
By what means of the spanner...
Can I say something about this book?
Later. Yes, book club.
So this is the theological word book of the Old Testament. I want you to pay close attention to the editors there.
Harris,
I'll go that
Archer,
way.
and Walke.
So
Gleason Archer. How
Gleason
about
Archer?
that?
How about that?
That?
Bruce Waltke actually went on to write like a standard work in Hebrew grammar. It's very good. But I also want you to take note of the publisher for this book, if I can. Do you see it there?
Nope, too small. Making
Is
screen
it too
bigger.
small?
Oh, of course, the Moody Bible Institute. Yeah, they're not biased at all. Not biased at all.
So Tobelson asks, did the Hebrews use the word tongue to refer to language as well? I'm going to refer that to the other two.
Most languages refer to language as tongues.
Yeah.
Because you use your tongue to speak.
But is that specifically true for Hebrew?
I mean, Hebrew does that, yes.
Okay. Yeah.
So does Spanish, so does Latin, so does Greek.
I mean, sometimes so does English.
Yeah.
So, in
You're
fact,
speaking in tongues.
the word language itself comes from ultimately the Latin word
Lingua.
or tongue, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which also, man, there's this Mexican place, Lengua Tacos, around here.
Lengua tacos. Yeah. They're just tongue tacos. Yeah.
They're so good. So good. Look, I know you guys are probably like, oh, that sounds weird. Go try a lengua taco. Trust me. It's delicious. Actually,
that's right. Thank you, Vadim. I was going to say yazik. It uses it for both. That's one of the other random Russian words that I retained.
Yeah.
Yazik or yazik.
All right. Well, real quick, because we are over time, Vishanti, you got anything coming up that people should know about?
Just perpetually behind. I was kind of delaying a lot of things this week because I was trying to hear back from a job. One of the people that were reviewing the things got sick, so it's delayed another week. So yet again, I feel like I'm in limbo. But if there's a specific topic you want me to put out, fellow audience, let me know, and I will try to get that done soon. Otherwise, I've got a couple of Doctor Strange comic reviews and then a video on deconstruction that I want to work on.
So I've got I was sent a meme that I do want to read. So there's a picture of a guy holding a newborn baby and a 3-month-old baby. And he says, my 3-month-old is now twice as big as when he was born. He's on track to weigh 7.5 trillion pounds by age 10, which is just absolutely perfect young Earth creationist logic. And that was sent by Silver Shroud. So I want to say thank you.
Yeah.
That is
That's
impeccable reasoning
accurate.
right there. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Kip, you have anything coming up that you want to tell people about? Real quick.
I am probably going to do a stream next week responding to some of the stuff that was on the Joe Rogan podcast featuring Wes Huff. And mostly because it feels like everyone else has said something about what Wes Huff did on Joe Rogan's podcast, except for the Dead Sea Scrolls guy. So, so I'll probably be doing that. And I'm also, so Kiriati Breet is supposed to come back on Thursday evening. Dr. Josh is previously committed.
That's reading Hebrew for those of you who can't do it. Correct.
But I I might try to see if I can get Joel Karitko on to read with me this week.
Yeah.
So he doesn't know that I'm about to ask him, and I don't think he
And
watches your show,
also
Dapper.
consider
but-
asking some of Dr. Josh's Hebrew students.
Also, ask him to
True,
start
yes.
watching the show. Do that.
Yeah.
Joel,
Yeah.
he'd probably just call you an idiot. So
I mean, he wouldn't be
I mean,
wrong.
that's what.
Joel from the back, you fool!
Look,
Hey, he went to Oxford, you guys. Did you know that? He went to
I've heard
Oxford.
that. I do
Yeah.
need people calling me out for when I'm wrong, though. So, you know. Although, if you call me out for being wrong, you need to actually support it. If you just say you're wrong, Dapper, I'm like, okay, cool, and move on.
Ding dong, you are wrong.
Yeah.
And then never supports it. Runs away.
Kip, you get anything else, or should I go on to what I have coming?
Yeah, no, I think that's it. Go ahead.
All right, so let's see. On Tuesday, we're doing another Kent with Bent. I will be, in fact, shoving myself into my stupid, itchy human suit and putting a tutu on top of that because Bent was in one last time, and I owe you a Dapper and a tutu. So that will be on Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific. Wait, no, 5 p.m. Pacific. I know how to do maths. And 8 p.m. Eastern. That'll be Kent with Bent. I don't have a title for it. If you have a title idea, send it along. Because it's like Kent with Bent, like 10 or 155 or something. Like, it's hard coming up with this many names, guys. There's a lot of names I have to come up with. Then on Thursday at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, we will be doing the supercut of the Frank Turek series. So Frank Turek is Clueless, the movie. Get some popcorn, get a drink. It's going to be a long one. I think this one is somewhere around 4 hours. So yeah, it's quite the
Hey,
thing.
Dapper.
Yes.
How many days of Christmas are left?
That is a good question. Let's see. So like 7.
Okay.
I think. So I will probably be. It'll be on the Christmas set for Kent with Bent. Because in case you guys don't know, it is currently Old Calendar Christmas. So for those of you out there who are either Christians who use the Old Calendar for liturgical purposes, or who are just, you know, part of a broad culture that celebrates Christmas but uses the Old Calendar, which is the case in a lot of Slavic-speaking countries, it is Christmas for you. So, you know, I don't want to leave out part of the Christmas celebrating world by pretending that it's not currently Christmas for some people. But anyway, so that is going to be Thursday. Then on Friday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, over on Top Hats off my other channel, you can join me and Jordan from Reason to Doubt, and Chesh from Chesh, and Craig from FTFE, as well as Zerolon and Tiri and Necro from the chat. We are all going to be doing Star Trek adventures. This is going to be, I believe, episode 14, Return to Beta Niobe, which I'm sure we all remember Beta Niobe from Star Trek, the original series, obviously. You know, the penultimate episode of the entire series, All Our Yesterdays. Everyone knows Spock kind of falls in love with a cave woman, kind of. The classic episode. Actually, not one of the better ones, but it's okay. It's fine. It's an okay episode, especially for season 3. But yeah, so we'll be doing Return to Beta Niobe on that Friday. Then on Saturday, a week from today, we will be back. I'm inviting Kip and Vishanti back, and already reading this.
Look, I'm reading
already
ahead,
excited. Yeah,
and oh my god!
Here's the sentence. However,
Yep.
it is possible that advanced technology existed in these cultures, such as hot air balloons. So
Ancient astronaut theorists contend.
we're probably going to be reading chapter
Great.
16 because already, yeah. Vadim Merchenko says Orthodox Christmas is yet to come. Well, I mean, pretty sure Orthodox Christmas Day has already passed in terms of old calendar. Vadim. I'm pretty sure that even in Russia they're already saying Christ is born and glorify him, but you know, like in either Church Slavonic or Russian, which I don't speak either of those languages. Didn't that sun go nova, says Chris McDaniel? Yes. In fact, if you watch the teaser trailer, you're going to see the Beta Niobe planetary nebula displayed, because in fact Beta Niobe did go nebula or go nova. Chris McDaniel is apparently well versed in some obscure Star Trek lore. That is impressive. All right. With that being said, we're going to get out of here. I hope to see all of you on Tuesday. And if you are interested and you have access, hop over to the Discord server. I'm going to double check with Bent whether he thinks we should knock one episode out and just do 4 on 1.25 speed, or if we should still do all 5. And have a great day, great rest of the weekend, and I'll see y'all later. Hey, before you leave, I just want to take a second to thank my patrons and channel members, especially those pledging $20 or above. Ben Tovand, Tapioca Weasel, Whispers, Elron Teller, Ian Chen, Kelvin Brostick Van Manen, Landon Knoll, Mabdy Babdy, Sphincter of Doom, Wallace, Max Cherry, North Texas Fossils, John Ackerman, and Strawberry Vein. It's because of my channel members and patrons whom you're seeing on screen that this channel can stay afloat. Without you, it would all shut down. If you want to join the team, there's a link to join the channel below this video, and there's a link to join the Patreon in the description. On the Patreon, you can get a 10% discount for pledging annually, and either way, you get early access to virtually all of my scripted videos, often 3 to 5 months before they come out for the general public. Thanks for watching.